Tony Dunn. Ain't nothing to it but to do it, brother. Let's roll.
In a world where Carolina Panthers fans have an insatiable thirst for Panthers news and opinions, only one podcast roars ferociously. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast.
C3 Legion, what is up? Welcome back to another edition of the C3 Panthers Podcast. I am not Tony Dunn. Tony Dunn decided he needed a little vacation with him and the fam. But you know it's a Tuesday night, so we will have a Panthers podcast no matter what. And I have rounded up an all-star panel to talk Panther football tonight. Before I introduce the panel, let me shout out some participants. The C3 Legion, like I always do. Joey the Blind Panther, Harvey London, VR the Hope Dealer, and you see him right here on the Panther, man. On the panel is Panther Pickle. I really appreciate each and every single one of you for being here with the C3 Panthers podcast. This is normally the part where I say ain't nothing to it but to do it. Let's roll. And I guess I just did. But you know what? Let me introduce my all-star panel that I've rounded up tonight to talk about a number of different issues. Bryce Young ranked 98th on the NFL Top 100, the first time he has ever been ranked in the Top 100. What other players might appear on that list? Whose stocks have risen and fallen this OTA cycle per Joe Person? Some potential free agent signings that the Panthers can make, and what defensive free agent signings might make or break the Panthers this season. First up, it's the man, we would normally call him the man with the beard, but the beard's a little bit shorter than it normally is. You know him, you love him. It's the Bat Daddy back on the C3 Panthers podcast. What's up, brother?
What's going on, man? Yeah, we made the playoffs. You know, that was the whole deal. It was a few years. I grew the beard. Made the playoffs. It's gone now. I got a few thoughts about Bryce Young being top 100. I mean, you know, you barely made the cut, but it's we'll get into it a little later and see. We're going to figure out what's going on. But, man, I'm here to talk some Panthers football. It's a good time. It's good to be back. It's good seeing all y'all. And let's get it done, man.
Love having you, man. Listen, I know that anytime Greg is on the panel and we're talking Bryce Young, it's going to be a fun discussion. Next up from the Blue and Black Panther podcast is Panther Pickle back on the show. Pickle, what's up, dude? How you been, man?
Oh, what's up, guys? I'm ready to roll. I mean, I saw Bryce made the top 100, and I said, okay, barely, but he made it, and it's a start, and we'll see what happens. You know?
Yeah, no, we will see what happens. A lot of thoughts. I know I definitely have mine. We will get into them. But next up, dude, shout out to the dedication. Codizzle Allen, the voice that makes them moist, also on vacation. But he said, dude, I need to come and talk about this top 100. So you know we're going to let you do just that. My man, CK, what's up, brother?
Man, just out here. Happy to be here. Hopefully everybody can hear me well, as I'm not in my normal setup. So, but happy to be talking about some, again, relevant Panthers news, some stuff going on that I think shocked me even, you know, with this announcement of Bryce Young placed in the top 100 in a place that I believe Cam Newton was at one point in his career at this, Cam Newton was also number one at some point in this career, but you know, Cam Newton's been in the 90s, if I'm not mistaken, in this top 100. So it's going to be interesting to see those parallels and figure out, you know, what this really means and if there's anything to gather from this information, because it's quite interesting.
So funny you mentioned that. I have a list of all the Panthers players that have ever been on the top 100 and how many times they've been up there. So that ought to be fun. We're going to jump right into it. But listen, man, the NFL has started to put out their top 100 players as voted on by their peers. And Bryce Young, the man of our hearts and dreams, is number 98 on the Panthers or on the NFL Top 100. Let's look at the little 2-minute video that they put out on Bryce, and we will break it down. Hit that like, hit that subscribe.
I'm sure you've heard this stat, but since 2023, you've led the most comeback drives out of all quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you play the game for.
This is where we finish. Let's go. This is where we finish. This is where we finish. Let's go. Let's go.
I call him Ice Young because when we get in those moments, there's no quarterback I'd rather have.
His biggest thing, he's always like calm and collected. Never lets the moment get too big.
Played the Rams well. I know how good of a team the Rams are.
Young steps up. He's got room. Bryce Young tucks it, runs. Bryce Young touchdown. Up until this point of Bryce Young's career, it was his best performance against one of the top teams in football.
I feel like when we played him, that was a big game for them. And he was calm the whole game, just making plays, facilitating the offense.
Deep left corner of the end zone. Touchdown! Bryce Magic is real.
He really does a good job of stepping up and making some of those clutch throws.
Heck of a performance by Bryce Young and the Panthers. They win a ball game.
With 2 minutes left, we got to go score. I know he get it done.
On this crucial fourth down, Young, McMillan, got it! Touchdown! Panthers lead! Young had the highest quarterback rating of his career in the Week 13 win against LA. One opportunity, it's caught by Coker for the touchdown! Bryce Young got his man! Touchdown! And the Panthers take the lead!
I feel like in those moments, I'm not trying to do too much, do too little. Just try to execute. That's the fun of the sport. You're imagining games on the line, 2-minute drive to go win the game when you're in the backyard growing up, and I'm blessed I get to do that in real life.
Let's go. Let's go. Back, baby. That's what I'm talking about.
All right, there you have it. Bryce Young, he is the 98th player on the NFL's top 100 list. And, this is something that I do think no matter what you feel about Bryce Young, it is a step in the right direction that NFL players, his peers, are looking at Bryce as someone who is worthy of being on this list. We don't have to rehash the first 2 years of his career, although I'm sure we will. But Bryce Young, he's been through it all, man. He has been benched in this league after 2 games of his second season. He was very lackluster as a rookie in the NFL, albeit didn't necessarily have the best list or the best team around him at that point in time. But he is on the list and is at the very back end of the list. I mean, there's only 100. He's 98. But listen, I'll give my opinion, but first I will defer to you boys. And thank you to the Hope Dealer for the $1.99 love bomb. Appreciate your Hope Dealer. We're going to get to your cat call a little bit later. But boys, what do we make of this? I mean, Bryce Young is on the list, which is a good thing. But, do you feel he deserves to be on the list? What does this say to you? I know CK was chomping at the bit, so I'll let CK go. And then
what I'm going to do is we've had some absent guests for an extended period of time on the show tonight. We're going to let them go first, get their voices heard for the first time in quite a while.
Okay. All right, so we want to go with the Heat. Bat Daddy. I know you feel some type of way about this, man, but just tell me what you think. How you feel?
Okay, man. Classic wet blanket. I'll be a little bit of that right now. Look, man, I'm proud of Bryce for what he's done, and I think he's really progressing well. He's impressed me a little more in the last year or so than I thought he would. I think that honestly, 98, like somewhere in the 90s, is probably a good spot for him. I do think it's kind of deserving where he's at. But I think some of these stats are a little construed. Like they talk about the most comeback wins, of any quarterback since 2023 with 12. That's great. but you wouldn't have 12 comeback wins if you didn't throw for 78 yards, a touchdown, interception in the first 3 quarters. So they're a little misleading. However, the fact that he gets it done, and he's gotten it done that many times, I got to give him his flowers. I'm not going to hate on Bryce because I don't think Bryce is as much garbage as I thought he was going to be. I don't think he's ever going to be an MVP guy. But I think that with what we've invested in him, because we've invested in him more with the offensive line and the offensive players around him than we ever have in the entire franchise history around any other quarterback, I think he's doing an okay job. I think this is a decent spot for him. Maybe if he had gone 96 somewhere in there, I'd have been okay. But he's a top 100 player, but he's right in the range he needs to be top 100. Now, if he comes away and does really well this year, I have no problem with him moving up in that list. But I think this is actually probably a pretty good spot for him. I think they kind of nailed it. He's right there in that 90s range of a player,
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that was very fair, Greg. I thought you were going to come out more guns blazing than that, but I think that was very fair, and you're probably right where I am. A lot of those stats are a little bit misleading, and I can bring up something to kind of visualize exactly what you're talking about here in a minute. But like I said, for the most part, Greg, you and I were in the same camp. We didn't think that Bryce was ever going to be even a serviceable starter as our Panthers quarterback, let alone making the top 100. But he did do that, and it is a step in the right direction. And I don't know, there's a lot to be said about it. This is what Bryce Young had to say about it. He said, I'm grateful for it, but I can't let that be a motivating factor. Young said when asked about the realization that his game has improved, I think in sports, just in life, there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. I can't control stuff like that. So I think for me, even if it is a positive at the time, I can't flip-flop, just focus on the work here and just know that's all that matters. And listen, Bryce has been nothing but consistent. He's a very even-keeled player. He doesn't let the ups get him too high, and he doesn't let the lows get him too down. And I think that does play to an advantage for Bryce when he is in those really those gotta have it moments. Right. We'll go CK and then we'll get Panther Pickle in here. CK, top 100, number 98. How you feel about it, man?
I mean, I think Greg has a very reasonable take on it. I think there are moments. One of the things that I think we've all been in agreement with is that I would like to see him take over a game similar to the Atlanta game and the Rams game, where it felt like he was the difference maker. And all too often, it does come down to the final drive when we very likely should have had that game in hand had it not been for a few mistakes made. Now, that's to be said on both sides of the ball. And I think there are some misleading pieces to this, but I think the one thing that isn't misleading is the fact that he has, when his name has been called, has been more often than not the reason we've won a game in that moment, right? Sure. Now, if you look at the entire body of work, I understand that. But the thing that I think is most encouraging to me is that when you realize this is voted on by other NFL players, that tells me at what level he is respected in the league. And I'm telling you, from a player, if I'm looking at a player and he's looking at Bryce Young and saying that dude's a guy, then I'm going to trust the player because that means they have some respect for him for a reason. Yep. And I think it comes from the fact that he has a clutch gene. And while the other stuff may not be there quite yet, the thing that can't be taught is how to handle yourself under pressure. And Bryce Young has clearly been able to handle himself very well under pressure to come back from what he did with the benching, and then to be able to have the stat that, even though it may be misleading, that stat is a real stat and it does speak volumes to him as a quarterback. I think I would probably agree with Greg. I think that MVP really isn't ever going to be in the question for Bryce, but I think that it is not out of the question that I'm going to say something hot take, and it's not just because of this top 100. I think that we will win a Super Bowl with Bryce Young as our quarterback at some point.
Hell yeah, baby. Keep
Sam
pounding.
Darnold just won. Yeah, Sam Darnold just won. So, I mean, it's very powerful.
Absolutely. And listen, I forgot to mention this at the start of the show. Shout out to Tony. He always gives me my credit for producing. Well, I have to give him his credit for hosting. I've already forgotten shit. This is your show to also call in, be a part of the Cat Calls line at 252-228-5098, and be a part of the discussion that we are having here today. Pickle, I'm going to get your thoughts on this. And before you go, I think just to highlight a little bit of what Greg and CK were talking about. Let me put this down, put this up. So this is Bryce Young compared to the league average in completion percentage, interceptions, success percentage, yards per average, air per attempt, yards per catch. There's a bunch of different metrics, and if you compare him to the league average, Bryce is a little bit below the league average. So I think that when you hear fans talk about wanting to move us in the right direction, I think this is a little bit what they're talking about. There are numbers that we want to see improve, but at the same time, this is a step in the right direction, being recognized by his peers. Pickle, what did you think about this? Is this something that you think represents a continued change for the better in Bryce? Or is this a flash in the pan or players overhyping him? How do you feel about Bryce being number 98?
I think it's a start. It's a real good start. Like earlier, I'm not going to go through his previous seasons. We could do that all night. But I think it's a start. I think Bryce fits, to be honest, I think Bryce fits the West Coast system. I don't believe he fits any other system. A lot of quarterbacks you take Sam Darnold. He could actually, if he has enough training, a skill, he could just won the Super Bowl. He can fit.
Yeah.
You can put him in an offense where you throw the ball deep a lot. He's got a good arm to do that. You can put him in a system where he moves a little bit. Bryce is a guy who fits the traditional West Coast offense. He doesn't really fit any other system. Now, that being said, there's nothing wrong with that, providing the GM and the coaches understand that so they can build around him and put people around him that have those weapons. Just let him be that game manager guy, and he excels at doing that. And that's what I think they're doing. Now, granted, we couldn't do that till we got the third coach on staff. And, I like what they're doing with Bryce. I like he's moving upwards. Is everything even, Steven? No, but at the very same time, is all his numbers perfect like you said? No, but neither are all the players around him. They're all learning. They're all developing. For example, if Excel would have caught all those passes, if every pass would have been on shot, if no tight end would have got hurt or dropped passes, you could do that all night. But you improve the talent around him. They're doing that. This is for a lot of these players. This is the first year they're actually going to go in and have the same offensive coordinator, the same defensive coordinator, and everything's going to be the same. So they're growing, they're learning, they're going to get better, or they should get better. And if they don't get better, it's going to be, by and large, everybody's fault, not just one, I think.
Yeah, and I do think that every single offseason, they've made a concerted effort to put more and more talent around Bryce on the offensive line, at the wide receiver position. They have made a bunch of meaningful upgrades that I think have really heavily benefited Bryce. And I think that we also did that this offseason as well, in the draft, in free agency. I really like the moves that we made. And listen, man, people will say that I'm a Bryce Young hater, that Greg's a Bryce Young hater. Nobody wants to be wrong about our initial thoughts on Bryce more than us. I hope that CK is right. I hope that in a year or two's time, we're hoisting a Vince Lombardi trophy and Bryce has his hands all over that thing. I just think that we need to continue to see that continued development. And I think that we've done enough to have him have the right pieces around him for that to happen.
Well, I'll tell you right now what I think is I think the all-star of this team right now is Dan Morgan. To be honest with you, what he's done, like everything he's put around Bryce, and I'm, this is hindsight going back and looking at it. But if we'd have built like this around Cam, we'd still have him.
Yeah.
He would have been an MVP a number of times. We probably would have had a couple of Super Bowls. Think about the only year we did this with Cam went 15-1, won the MVP, and went to the Super Bowl. The only year they invested weapons around him. Okay. Now, here's the thing about Bryce that I love and I hate. Okay, is last 2 games of the season we can lock up the title by just winning a game, and we lost both of them. We had to leave it up to another team losing for us to be able to win the division. Then Bryce turns around in the playoff game, which he was down big to begin with, and I thought all was lost. And for what you want to say, Bryce came back and won that game. The only reason we lost that game was because of an amazing catch by a great quarterback to a tight end that you're only going to see 1 out of every 50 times thrown.
Yeah. On top of the fact that Jason Horn was out injured.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the only reason we lost that game. That game-winning catch by the Rams, you throw it 50 times, you're going to catch it 1 time for a touchdown.
And maybe maybe a muffed punt by a rookie running back. Certainly kind of helped. Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, like, that's what I love and hate about Bryce is like you have the opportunity at the end of the season to put this away with 2 teams we could have beaten easily, and he doesn't do it. Then you go to the playoffs and you're down, and you come back and make this amazing comeback, this game-winning drive that should have put us to the next round of the playoffs. And by not his fault at all, we end up losing that game. It's why you can't give up on him, to be honest with you. It's why I'd given up on him before, but now I see these things. I'm like, okay, this guy has the potential to be a game winner. He's getting there. He's getting closer. And every year he seems to be getting better. I'm hoping that keeps progressing forward and he keeps getting better as we go, because we could have a good team based on what we put around him and his progression over the next few years.
I just want to say this, and I want to say this because what I don't want the Panthers to turn into are the Browns and the Jets and the Panthers. Because right now the Panthers have followed in a lot of footsteps of the Browns and of the Jets. And I think right now they need to not give up on a player and just let him develop, because otherwise you're going to be sitting there as a Jets player, a Jets fan watching Sam Darnold, who you threw away for a bag of chips years ago, go to Seattle and win a Super Bowl. And then you're the Browns, who had the best year that they've had in like decades with Baker Mayfield at the helm, to go to Tampa and actually still play, fairly well, arguably some MVP level, talented play early last year before he ended up getting injured. I don't think the Panthers can afford. I really believe if they give up on Bryce Young, they're dooming themselves to the same fate that the Jets and the Browns are facing right now. And we're a part of that history because we let both of those guys go too. And so, this is an opportunity for us to redeem ourselves and move forward and let this guy develop, continue to get better, because I can tell you, and I don't think anybody on this panel can argue, he has only gotten better every single year that he's been in the league. Yeah. He has not taken a step backwards at any point. He has only gotten better. And so if that trend continues, I think there's a lot of hope for what we have in Bryce Young. And I think, Dan Morgan absolutely deserves an incredible amount of credit, in my opinion. The dude came in and he did his first priority was shoring up the offensive line, because when we go back and watch Bryce Young's rookie year, that offensive line was very possibly one of the worst offensive lines we've seen as Panthers fans in our history. Right.
And most of those receivers that year are not in the league right now. Terrace Marshall Jr. I forget who was even on that team. But Adam Thielen was here, and he's no longer playing. Who else?
Chark.
Yeah, DJ Chark.
He's also building a winning culture that players want to come to. We are a very small market team. Like a lot of big players don't want to come to small market teams. Charlotte, in the grand scheme of things, is not huge. Okay, so it's hard to get players here anyway. But when you can build a winning culture and have players good players like we signed this year want to come here and play, that means you're building something well. And I think that
Yeah.
Dan Morgan is my MVP right now, to be truly honest with you.
And that's also why I said that they had to probably overpay Jalen Phillips a little more than, say, Philly would have had to, because they do have to really pay players well to come here. We haven't been a perennial contender. We're not the biggest market. And, to me, that's going to be the biggest determining factor on how Dan Morgan is viewed, that Jalen Phillips contract.
Cody, I disagree wholeheartedly. And the only reason I say that is I look at New England when last year, when we lost out on the defensive tackle from Philadelphia, because he went and got paid so much more in New England. New England's a much larger market than the Panthers are. And they had to pay more than we were willing to pay him to be able to get him. I don't think it's as much about Charlotte as much as it is about, we are contending with these people. Like, we weren't at that point in time. We knew that we needed to get our defensive line short up, right? And the paying him what New England paid him would have set us backward. And now in hindsight, I look and I'm like, okay, well, now we have a defensive line that comes with Lee Hunter, Derek Brown, a lot, Jalen Phillips, and all. So in hindsight, I think that this was the best thing that could have happened. And I don't think that we overpaid as much as people say we did. Now, he's getting paid a lot. Don't get me wrong. I'm fully aware of that. But I also look at what we got with why am I blanking on his name? The linebacker.
Devin Lloyd.
Devin Lloyd, yep. Like, he was grossly underpaid in my opinion, for being the number one middle linebacker in the free agency pool. And we got the number one left tackle for pennies on the dollar. And again, I know these aren't like world beater players, but I think that we're playing Moneyball right now, in my opinion. We have a superstar in Jalen Phillips, but outside of that, man, we have been putting together quietly one of the better teams in the league, just based off of these little things. I think in my opinion, and one thing somebody else was talking about the consistency this offense is going to have going into this year, having the same head coach, the same offensive coordinator. You guys got to keep in mind, going into last year, do you remember our wide receiver core last year?
Last year, Thielen,
Hunter Renfrow. We had obviously T-Mac. Yeah, last year we had.
Thielen wasn't here last year, though.
No, what I mean is he was.
You mean
the offseason? He was traded right before the season started.
Yeah, he was traded right at that point when it was like he was either going to be a Panther or he was going to be going to Minnesota, and they got and he ended up getting traded. And this is the first offseason where we don't have the safety blanket, and Bryce Young has one target or 2 or 3 targets that he's focused on, instead of having to get chemistry with these other people that aren't going to be on the team. As much as we wanted Hunter Renfrow to work out, it didn't work out. Adam Thielen's gone. Now we just have a couple of really young players that are that are going to hopefully elevate this team. And the hope is we're only going to see them get better. And man, that's exciting to think about.
Well, and what I meant when I was talking about small market too, CK, and I agree with you, but like, players care more about, or not more about, but they also care about like their credibility and their marketability. Like, you got to think about it. Cam Newton was an MVP. Luke Kuechly was the defensive player of the year. And these guys, and Christian McCaffrey was a great player. You're looking at local ADT commercials and yogurt commercials, local yogurt commercials. Because you're in a place like Charlotte. When you're in a place like New York, when you're in a place like New England or St. Louis, places like that, Los Angeles, not St. Louis, but Los Angeles, like, you're going to get more of that kind of endorsement. And players do worry about that kind of stuff. They are concerned about it because it's big money for them. So it's harder for them to come to a team that's a very small market team, even if you are an amazing player and you've got a chance to do some really good things here. So that's one thing always fighting against us, is that Charlotte's always going to be a small market. But I mean, it looks like Dan Morgan is putting together a team that players are wanting to have a winning culture and want to win in.
But a lot of players in the league now want to go into the small markets, because right along with the big markets, you're talking about more crime in the city they're living in, with with
This is
a lot of your massively higher taxes. You know,
Yeah.
you take Charlotte itself.
That taxes
Compare
is the
going
big
to
one.
Charlotte to LA.
Yeah.
It's automatically a massive jump in increase. So
Yeah.
a lot
like,
of a lot of players want to come here instead of going to the bigger markets anyway. And if we develop that winning culture, a lot of players like, listen, I want to go somewhere where there's a winning culture. And
Yeah.
you know, a lot of the players in free agency, even yet today, they didn't want to come here because they're for sure if we just did a 1-year wonder or we're really improving. We go out there and make a winning season, maybe make the playoff, push for the division, win the division. It's a long road, but we do that again this year. It's going to sharply increase the folks' desire to come here.
It can definitely change things. And my one slight rebuttal to what CK said, and then we'll move on to this next part, was that I think that, you know, when you bring up the defensive tackle from last year that ended up going to the Patriots, yeah, the Patriots upped the money. They had a little bit deeper coffers than we did. But what I'm also saying is this. I also don't know if there was a guarantee that if Dan Morgan did say, okay, we're going to go all in and we're going to land this guy, that even if they did beat the offer for the Patriots, that player might have still looked at the Patriots and said, well, you know, it's the Patriots. They've got Vrabel back. They have been, you know, it's the Patriots. They've won like, 6, 7 Super Bowls, whereas we're still trying to get out of the mud. I do think that does make a difference when you're having to sign these free agent players. The Panthers are going to have to break open the bag, and I think that can change. Like Pickle was saying, if we do build a winning culture, that can really pay dividends, because then I think there might be some players that would be willing to take something of a discount to come here to the Carolinas and be a part of what we're building. But I think seeing is believing. And I do think that's going to go a long way. CK, I know you have to get out of here really quick, but I wanted to bring this up to you before you left. So the all-time Panthers in the top 100. By the way, the list didn't start until 2011. So for those of you that are going to be like, well, wait a minute, where's Julius Peppers? Where's, you know, a bunch of these other really good Panthers players? It didn't go back that far, but the most appearances on the top 100 list are Cam Newton at 8, Luke Kuechly at 7, followed by a tie at 3 between Ryan Khalil, Thomas Davis, Greg Olsen, and Christian McCaffrey.
If I could say one more thing, and I posted it earlier, and people need to remember, I posted in there when I got off Google that Cam didn't make it in 2011. That's because the list was made in the same time it's made this year. Yeah. Into that year, he was only a Panther for a couple months during that time period. So of course he didn't make the top 100. He ain't played yet. So now, granted, now they're liable to put a rookie on there somewhere that ain't played yet. That's just
they always base it off the previous. Yeah, they always base it off the previous year's performance. So I don't think that they're allowed to put a rookie on there.
Well, they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be.
Yeah. Any comments on this list before we?
Yeah, I mean, I think. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, if you're about to leave in a minute, I have one question I wanted to ask you, and going to go around the table. You had mentioned this earlier, and I thought about it, and you were talking about the Carolina Panthers not wanting to be like the Jets or the Browns. Yeah. If you can compare the Carolina Panthers to any team in the NFL right now as far as their progression and where they're going, who would it be? And I'll tell you mine, where I think we're at right now, and you guys tell me if you agree. I think we're looking more like the Detroit Lions than anybody else right now as far as progressing offensively, building a franchise, building a team. So in my opinion, I'd compare them more to the Detroit Lions. Who would you compare them to in the NFL?
So I don't want this to come across the wrong way, because I don't think that means we're about to be in the Super Bowl. But I really do think I would put our comparison to the Seattle Seahawks. And the reason being is that that team was just, we don't have one player that is like the reason we win football games or essentially the reason we lose. I think it ends up going across the board. But and I think the Seattle Seahawks, when you think about their defense, like their defense, that team might be one of the most complete teams I've ever seen in my entire life. What they did last year, and it came from having a quarterback that didn't have to be Superman all the time, but could make the plays. You had a wide receiver that was considered a top 10 in the league. Some might consider that to be where T-Mac's headed. You had a running back room that was spearheaded by a two-headed monster in, what was it, Chardonnay, and who was the guy, Kenneth Walker. And I think that we have another opportunity with that, with Jonathan Brooks and Chuba Hubbard here, and whomever else, maybe even Etienne. And then you talk about the defense. I mean, they're building the defense up like it's like, again, they're doing so much to try to improve every little aspect of this team. And there's legitimately, since Dan Morgan took over the 2 years, again, that I know it's not a long history, but this is his third offseason. In every single offseason, he has found a way to make this team better every time. And I think Seattle's is one of the best examples I would be able to give of what we're trying to build here, because it doesn't have to be like the thing with the Lions is everything had, like, the Lions have become a little more gimmicky than anything else. And doesn't mean that it's not working, but offensively speaking, like, it was trick plays and things that are exciting to watch, but there were a lot of things that they were doing that was, that was heavily reliant on I don't know, just misdirection.
It's very unconventional. Unconventional.
Yeah, unconventional is a great way to put it. And I just think what Seattle built was a team that I think is going to be hard to beat for 2, 3, 4 more years, just because I couldn't even pinpoint one specific reason why that team was so dominant, because every aspect of that team was so complete.
I actually like your comparison better than mine, so you beat me in that one.
Pickle, so I'll just jump in. I'll be quick. I actually like your comparison a little more than CK's, Greg. And the reason why I can't quite go full Seahawks yet is because the Seahawks have won a Super Bowl. They have proven themselves, even in a tough division like the NFC West. They have been perennial contenders for a long time, even through multiple different quarterbacks. Now, we've been through multiple different quarterbacks, but I don't think it's to the level of success that the Seahawks have done it. I really like the Lions. One, it's a cat team, big roar, let's go. But also the fact that the Lions have been a perpetual dumpster fire for as long as all of us have been alive. And I'm not saying that it's been that bad for the Panthers, but I would rather be compared to a team that's been largely haphazard and was able to figure out its shit, get it together, drafted a young, dominant defense, added some really good weapons on offense, and found some diamonds in the rough late in the draft, and were able to turn their fortunes completely upside down. I really do like that comparison. That's the one I'm going to go with. Pickle, do you have a comparison for where you are hoping to see the Panthers similar to? Yeah, it's a tough one. It really.
Yeah, I don't really want to say the Bills. The Bills, not the Bills. The Seahawks. They won the Super Bowl. Everybody wants to win the Super Bowl, but the Seahawks went in with a veteran NFL defensive coordinator. They went out and got a veteran NFL offensive coordinator, and they went out and got a veteran NFL coach, and they already had a load of talented folks on the roster, including running backs anyway. So they kind of stacked together before the deck got started. They just changed the leaderships and moved forward, kept the same GM. The Lions did the opposite, but the Lions didn't play exactly well last year because a lot of that is the Lions lost their offensive coordinator and their defensive coordinator, and they turned around and their head coach didn't like how they were going, so he tried to jump in and play offensive coordinator. And, you know, they've got to learn how to win without Ben Johnson. They just do. And if they can't, who knows? There might be a coaching change in the future there. But as far as looking across the league, seeing who I want them to turn around, I remember the Rams making a quick turnaround. Uh, you know, I do like building through the draft and making good draft picks and sprinkling free agents involved in that. But I also like how the draft picks we have aren't tied to one defense. You know, nobody on this defense can only play this one style defense. Because I don't think Ivero's going to be here past next year. I just think he'll get a head coach job somewhere. But I do like how we're building quite a bit.
Yeah, see, I feel like the Rams buy their team every year. Like, I mean, they brought in.
You're right.
Yeah, I mean, it's the LA, the lore that everybody wants to go to Hollywood or that area. Yeah, I just feel like they're always in the, for some reason, I don't know how they work their salary cap out. They're always in the bidding for the best players in the league. They were the number 2 contender for AJ Brown to come into the league to cover their team this year, and New England beat them out. Like, I mean, I feel like they buy their team every year, and I guess if you can figure out how to do that, I think the Saints did that for a few years, and that's why they were really good. And now they're in salary cap hell. But I don't know. It just Sean McVay is a great coach. He really is. But I just feel like they buy that team every year.
Well,
You know?
and to be fair, I believe one of the reasons why they do that, though, is because you have Matthew Stafford, who was the reigning NFL MVP at 38 years old.
Mm-hmm.
They're a team that they're in the middle of a window. And to be honest, there were some rumors
that window's not long.
It is, and there were some rumors that Sean McVay was even considering moving on and getting into broadcasting.
I have opinion about that.
Yeah, so I think that while the Rams have the ability to actually win a championship, they were in the playoffs last year. They have a Super Bowl MVP. Yeah, what would you rather do? Use a pick in the draft or go get Myles fucking Garrett? You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like
both.
Yeah, of course
Do both. They just did. But I believe, and I thoroughly believe this because I've chatted with some core Rams fans, and I believe this. When Matthew Stafford hangs it up, Sean McVay will retire right then.
Yeah, I probably think so too.
Maybe
I believe.
I don't know.
Because
I
don't think Sean McVay wanted Ty Simpson. Is that the name of the quarterback?
Yeah, that's what all of them.
I do not think he wanted him, but I think the GM knows more than we do, and I believe the GM sees that happening down the road. The GM's going to get stuck with it unless he ups and retires. But I have absolutely no doubt, depending on how deep the Rams go this year, they very well may that if they get to the Super Bowl and have to win it, Stafford will retire on top, and so will Sean McVay.
Yeah.
No, I think Sean McVay. I know that there were rumors that he was going that route. I think right now legacy is far more valuable to somebody like Sean McVay, and I think he is still offering so much as far as coaching pedigree that dude is going to be able to win 2, 3, maybe even 4 more Super Bowls by the time he is through. I mean, you got to keep in mind the dude is super young. Like, it's not like he's not 60 years old like a lot of these coaches are. He's younger than Bill Belichick was when he won his first Super Bowl. And so when I look at it from the perspective that he has the ability to build this team and have his next quarterback learn under the tenure of Matthew Stafford, I think they're setting themselves up for a future that involves Sean McVay. But again, not a Sean McVay podcast, but nonetheless, I mean, I understand the comparison. I think that the Rams feel a little bit too surface level for me to believe the Panthers are them. And I only mean that from like, if you take 3 of their Yeah, I'm trying to think the right way because any team's going to have this issue. I don't know. I feel like the Panthers are trying to build a total good team that isn't just top heavy, but it's heavy throughout the entire roster. And the Rams are not; they're very top heavy. And if one domino falls, I could see the entire thing collapsing. And that domino is Matthew Stafford, which is most of the case for most people, but most teams. But nonetheless, I don't know. I feels a little bit too. I don't know. Like somebody says, they buy their team every year, and I just don't think the Panthers are ever going to be in a situation where they're able to buy their team.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, and listen, I agree. I know this isn't a Rams podcast, but that's why I do agree with Pickle when I just said too. I don't think that whenever this team expires as it is, I don't think Sean McVay is willing to stomach another rebuild and rebuild that from the ground up, especially if
they don't even have OTAs. They canceled all
that's
their
what I'm saying.
OTAs.
Like I think that's probably going to end up being a whole scrap and rebuild type of situation. But no, it ought to be fun to see. Dude, the Panthers are in a position going forward where our destiny is out in front of us. We can be anywhere between the Lions and the Seahawks to the Browns and the Jets. And the sad thing is like I can see both of those things.
Yeah,
I don't yet know which one of those it will be, but I could see it happening.
Well, hold on, Cody. I'm going to disagree with you there. I don't think. Okay, maybe we won't be the Lions or the Seahawks. I don't think we're going to fall as low as the Browns or the Jets. I think we've built a strong enough team. Yeah, well, I wouldn't. No, I'd fuck our owner. Excuse me, sorry, but screw our owner. I'm not talking about our owner. I'm talking about just what we've built in this team. I think that there's no way we're as bad. As a matter of fact, I would even put money down on it right now. There's no way we're as bad as the Browns or the Jets are this year.
I'll agree to that. I'm not saying they're going to. I'm not saying they're going to be the Bills or the Lions, but they're nowhere near. I don't think they're nowhere near as low as the Browns or the. There's too much long term. There's too much long term suckage for those two teams, if you will.
Well,
They're always overhyped in the offseason. They're always, well, look at, they had this great draft and they got this one player and they did this, and it always ends the same way. You know, I'm 58 years old. I've never remembered a time when the Browns were actually. I remember once they made the playoffs, but they really didn't do it by themselves. They had to have help to get there, and they continued their suckage after that. I mean, Haslam.
Well, I know they went with Baker Mayfield
in the league.
I know they went with Baker Mayfield, and then that was the last time they went. But no, it was dude, it's gonna be fun to follow going forward. We have a bunch more to talk about, but I know CK has to get up out of here. CK, I appreciate you, man, joining on your vacation. Hey, get some sun, man. I don't know where you are right now, but I hope you're someplace where you can have a cold one and relax and just enjoy the sun, brother.
Yeah, it's been a good week so far. So, all right, you boys have a good one. Thanks for holding down the fort. And you guys have a great rest of your evening.
Yes, sir. Keep pounding, CK. Love you, brother. Have a good one, man. All right, but listen, we're gonna move straight into the next part of the pod, and so this is from Jared Feinberg of Cat Crave, and he brings up some players that don't get enough national respect. He says Derek Brown, but we're gonna kind of go by these because I'm gonna take it in a different direction. He mentions Derek Brown, Devin Lloyd, Mike Jackson Sr., who I definitely agree with, and Damian Lewis. But my question is actually going to stay on the top 100. So right now they're at 97 players that they've released. What are some other players that we think are respected by the league, so by their peers in the NFL, that we expect to see on the list this year? Are we going to see 1, 2, maybe 3 more Panthers? That might be a lot. But how many other players do we expect to see on the NFL Top 100? And who do you think those players are?
Well, hold on. You said they've released 97. That means they've only released from 100 to 97, right? They haven't released
No,
97.
no. They've released.
go
No,
down,
yeah,
right?
just
Yeah,
they
yeah,
always do it
100.
backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
They always count backwards. So there's only 4 players out right now. So if Bryce is 98, what are some other Panthers that are on this team that are going to make the list? And I'll be real with you, boys. I only see one more player, and it might not be who you think it is.
Okay.
Honestly, I'd say about 3 or 4. But
really, there's going to be 3 or 4 more Panthers on this list.
I
think that's way too high.
Well,
I think there's going to be at least 3.
At least 3.
At least 3. Yeah.
All right, so then let's break some of this down a little bit. And to everyone in the chat, you put down in the comments who you believe what Panther player is going to be in the top 100 on this list, along with Bryce Young. Loud Pack Luke says T-Mac, Derek Brown, and J.C. Horn. That's a good list.
Those are my 3.
Those are my 3. You think that we'll see all of these?
Yep.
Okay.
I don't think they'll be super high. I think T-Mac will probably be in the 60s, 70s. Derek Brown, I think, is actually going to get the highest rating of all of them. I think he'll be probably somewhere in the 30s, 40s. I think J.C. Horn probably be in the same thing too. 30s, 40s, J.C. Horn, Derek Brown. I think T-Mac will be in the 60s, 70s. But I think all 3 of those will be in the top 100. They're all 3. Like, think about it. T-Mac won Rookie of the Year last year and had a phenomenal rookie year. Better rookie year than Julio Jones did. And Julio Jones is a great wide receiver. Okay. I think Derek Brown's one of the best at his position. And I think J.C. Horn's one of the best at his position.
Y'all remember, did J.C. Horn make it last year? Or no, there were no Panthers last year, right?
No.
Yes, there were none.
Nobody made it last year.
All right, so then listen, I'm going to cut in line, Pickle. I think that there's only going to be one more. I think it's going to be T-Mac because he won Offensive Rookie of the Year. Now, listen, I'm not going to say that those other guys like Derek Brown and J.C. Horn don't deserve to be on that list because fuck yeah, they do. They're maybe the 2 best players on the whole team. I mean, I love what those guys can do, but this is part of the reason why I don't mind if someone had an issue with Bryce Young being on that list, because for the most part, let's be real, boys. The NFL Top 100 is a popularity contest, just like Pro Bowl votes are. It's not necessarily who the best players are. It's who the most named players are. And if you're someone like Derek Brown, who's been left off the list before, why would we expect to see him on the list again this year? Again, I hope it is. I just don't think that it will.
Well, I'll tell you what I feel, especially with Bryce Young. I think Bryce Young is fitting for where he was at. Like I said, 90s, somewhere in there is a good spot for Bryce Young. But if Bryce Young wasn't a quarterback, there's no way he makes this list. If Bryce Young puts up the numbers he did at any other position, which are mid-level numbers, there's no way he makes this list.
Right, that's kind of my point.
Yeah, simply because he's on this list. So, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Well, everything the NFL does the popularity contest. The Pro Bowl was an embarrassment every year. If you watch the Pro Bowl, no, I'm not going to apologize. If you watch the Pro Bowl and you depend on the Pro Bowl, you're an idiot. But the Pro Bowl is useless. That all the Pro Bowl is a contract talk. When at the end of the year, toward the end of the year, when you see all these players talking about vote for me for the Pro Bowl, because your agent got on the phone and said you need to beg your followers to put you in the Pro Bowl so you can earn a little extra money and earn me some extra money. That's exactly what's going on.
I mean, Shador Sanders literally made a Pro Bowl.
The Pro Bowl was a joke.
It's
it's a complete utter joke. But Bucky Brooks wrote an article a couple days ago, actually, probably a week ago, and he puts Devin Lloyd as a player who should make the top 100 because he did have that breakout year last year. You look at before last year, Devin Lloyd doesn't go that high. But last year, he had that breakout year, and there is talk out there that Devin Lloyd could fall on his face because he only had one great year. I don't think so. I think he's going to have an excellent year, but maybe I'm a Panther
but that's
homer,
another point.
so.
Could we see Devin Lloyd on that list? Now it wasn't with
I
the
think so.
Panthers. He was
I
with
think
the
so.
he was with the
It would
Jaguars,
be.
but
It would be with the Panthers now because he's on the Panthers. But highlight reel is all going to cover the Jags. That's how it is.
Didn't Devin Lloyd have a pick six against us last year?
Yeah, he went 99 yards. Was against the Chiefs. He got a 99-yard pick six against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, like I said, I hope that I'm wrong.
But,
I would love to see
let's be real.
J.C. Horn on the list. I
Right,
would
the
love to see
Jags
Jared Brown.
lined
I
up
don't
in a
think we're
4-3
gonna see
defense
him.
last year. The Jaguars lined up in an attack 4-3 defense. We're telling him he has to play a 3-4.
Pickle, tell me the name of the players that you think we will see on the list and why.
The same thing y'all mentioned: Horn, J.C. Horn,
Derek Brown, T-Mac,
and T-Mac, and Lloyd. It went. I want. Well, my four it was including Bryce, but I would like to see Jalen Phillips get on there, but I don't know that he will. I don't. He ain't yet in all his career has been there, and his stat wise he don't sink the boat on sacks. So I don't know. That's. But who knows about Jalen Phillips? You know what I'm saying? And I know, to be honest with you, I don't think Taylor Moton's going to get on there either. He could. He absolutely could. He probably deserves it, but I don't think he's going on there. Ain't nobody else going to be on there either. Damian Lewis is a great left guard. He really is. But because he plays in Carolina, he ain't going to. And he doesn't have to scream and yell. He doesn't go out there scream and yell and look at me. So, you know.
Yeah, I mean, Robert Hunt, Damian Lewis Hunt has been hurt a lot, so I don't think we're gonna see him. But no, you're right. There's like a Panthers tax. Like if you're on the Panthers, you get deducted some points in terms of national media, in terms of a lot of different issues.
Does Rico go on it?
That's a good question. Does Rico Dowdle make the top 100 after having 2 games of over
it would be
200
Panther
yards?
related because he did play for us last year.
Yeah.
Well, Rico's had 2,000-yard seasons in a row.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, he's no slouch. So,
did he get to 1,000 here?
I think 1,000 total yards he did. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna go off topic here, but Cody, you were talking earlier about the Rams and their win now mentality in their window. That was my draft process this year in the fantasy league. I traded my first round pick away for Jared Goff, who's a top 10 quarterback, and I have what's his name from Buffalo, the quarterback. I don't know why I can't remember Josh Allen. So the number 1 quarterback, a top 10 quarterback in Jared Goff. I've got Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, Rico Dowdle, and if Josh Jacobs plays this year, 3 top 10 running backs. Or excuse me, 3 top 10 running backs and 1,000-yard running back.
I only had one draft pick this entire draft.
I've only had one draft pick for the last 2 years.
So I'm all in, dude. I'm all in. I'm right there with you.
I have a window because Josh Allen's aging and Jared Goff, he's 30 years old. He's going to have about 6-7 more years being a top 10 quarterback, maybe. So that was worth more than a wide receiver who may or may not make it. You know?
I have Matthew Stafford, Joe Burrow, and Jackson Dart. So I
know somebody. That's looking for an NFL team. I know somebody who's looking to join a draft team, a fantasy draft. Yeah, his name's Brandon. His name's Brandon Scorby. I'll see if I can't get a hold of him on Twitter.
See what you did there. Yeah, man. So look, how about this? We only have 2 cat calls tonight. If you would like to call into the show, there's still time for you to do so. 252-228-5098. Let's do that. Let's take 2 cat calls, and then we'll jump right back into the show. The number's 252-228-5098. 5098. Let's roll.
So what are your thoughts on catcalling?
Yeah, it's pretty. You shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you feel?
Very uncomfortable.
So how do you think catcalling makes the person feel?
It feels good, like.
Who's that cat sitting in the back corner with his face buried in his nose? Who's that kid that can use one?
Cody Lack. Hey, shout out to the great Tony Dunn. I know he said he's gonna be on vacation this week, a well-deserved vacation. But what's going on, guys? It's the Hope Dealer checking in.
Hope Dealer, what's up?
I did want to drop a quick call because I saw that Bryce Young made the top 100 at number 98. And you know what? At first I was like, man, I don't know if he deserves it. But hey, you know, the dude is clutch. He's got the clutch gene. And I want to say this. Just because he's in the top 100, we all know that he needs to improve. But it is something to celebrate as a franchise. So give me y'all thoughts on that if y'all haven't talked about it already. But, hey, I did have one question as well.
Yes, sir.
You know, a couple of years ago, Dave Canales said he was going to be stubborn about running the football. My question is, with Brad Idzik now, you know, coming back in the fold, he's going to be calling the plays. Jonathan Brooks being an unknown, of course. You know, Chuba Hubbard, we know what he is. He's decent, but he's not a game changer. And with us not drafting a running back, do y'all think that this might change our offensive scheme to be more pass heavy? And how so, if that's the case? What do y'all see here? I'm saying this because I'm honestly a little bit worried about our running game. I'm excited about Brooks, but he's an unknown. Give me y'all thoughts on the running game and if y'all think we're still going to be stubborn about running the football. But, hey, it's the Hope Dealer. Love all y'all. Keep pounding.
Keep pounding. This is probably one of the biggest questions going into this season, right? It's what is the offensive makeup going to look like under Brad Idzik? And, you know, are we going to be a run-first football team? Or are we going to pass the ball more? Shout out to Anthony, who was in the chat earlier. He always says that, you know, Dave Canales says that we're going to be a run football team, and yet we end up passing the ball even when we should be running. So I don't know. Brad Idzik is a real wild card this year. I agree. I don't think that we really know what we have in Jonathan Brooks. I'm excited for him. I also feel like we forget about A.J. Dillon, who was brought into the team. He hasn't been the greatest, but A.J. Dillon, he's older, but again, Chuba Hubbard here too.
He's the only pure power back we got.
Yeah, that's true, man. We might like him in some
power back we got.
We might like him in some goal line scenarios. And then if Brooks is healthy, we're excited to see him. But they also talked about they're going to give Chuba again a bulk of the reps. They feel like he is their bell cow, and I do think he was hurt at the start of last season. But what did you guys think? Are we going to be a passing football team this year, running football team, or can we even strike a good balance between the two?
Okay.
Well,
Go ahead, Pickle.
Well, Darrell Bevel is the associate head coach. Okay, he's not the guy. He's not like the others. His job title is literally the associate head coach.
He's the assistant to the head coach, right? Sorry, office joke.
Well, no, we have an assistant head coach. We have an associate head coach. Anyway, with his previous offensive system is a pro style run first, characters by a heavy emphasis on physical rushing attack with play action and explosive downfield. We know what Canales says. We know what Canales does. Canales has said before that his offense, that he doesn't call half the offensive plays he wants to call because he's too busy trying to be a head coach. So that's why he turned the job over to free himself up to do his head coach job because of his lack of experience at doing either one. So nonetheless, I think Jared Bubba would have a hard input on what Brad Idzik calls. So I think you're going to see a lot more running the football. And it wouldn't shock me if they actually lean to more of a power emphasis. Our offensive line is built for power run. but we don't often do it that way because we don't train for that. But all that being said, it will tend to go whoever starts, and I'm assuming Chuba Hubbard and Jonathan Brooks, on how preseason and training camp goes on how they call their plays. But I think you're going to see a lot of running the football with some play actions. But I think it's going to be heavy. I also think a lot of your passes may go to your tight end if he decides that he wants to be a real tight end and not a wide receiver playing tight end.
Yeah.
Well, I think to hit both parts of this call, I'll start out with the running game. I don't. It's hard to say if a team's going to be. I think every team says they want to be a run-first team because it opens the passing game. I'd rather the team be what we need to get done in that time. We're going to get done in that time. I'd rather be a more balanced, equaled-out team. That being said, I've seen Chuba Hubbard. I know Chuba Hubbard can get the job done. He can put up 1,200. You can give him the opportunity to put up 1,200 yards and 8-9 touchdowns. I want Jonathan Brooks to work really well, but I keep going back and looking at the fact that Jonathan Brooks was great in college. And then in the last 3 years, he's had 5 snaps and 2 ACL tears. So I don't know that's a long time to not be playing football, especially coming back from 2 ACL tears. That's a long time. Now, he may come back and surprise me, and that'd be great, and I would love that. But I think that we'd be better off if we didn't try to focus on being a run-first team, but almost like BPA for plays. Like, what's the best play available? No, it's actually BPA. Yeah. There you go. Best play available. But just whatever we need to do in that time, do that. The other thing I want to say about, he was talking about Bryce Young being in the top 98, and I think it's great, to be truly honest with you, because I know that when Bryce got drafted, you had this group of people who was super anti-Bryce, and this group of people who were totally balls in, I'm going to put my house on the line for Bryce being the best guy. And I think the best thing about right now is that it seems like both sides have kind of come back to the center and kind of realized that, okay, I wasn't right about him being terrible. I wasn't right about him being the next phenom of football.
Right.
So we're all coming kind of back to the center, and everybody kind of seems to be agreeing on this consensus of Bryce is a good quarterback. And through Bryce, with the right things done, the right coordinator, the right players around him, and a little bit of luck, of course, because in football, Bryce can be a guy that can get us there. And I love seeing that it's not so much division right now amongst Bryce. Everybody kind of understands Bryce is that middle of the line quarterback right now with the potential to step up. And I love seeing that's what's going on with him right now, as opposed to everybody hating Bryce because he's not good, or everybody acting like Bryce is a world beater when he's not. Like, everybody's starting to look more realistically about it, and I like that. So, the caller saying he was surprised about the top 100. I think being surprised by the top 100 or being satisfied with the 98 is right in the ballpark of where everybody should be right now. And I think most people are right at that point.
Yeah, I agree. Right in the middle.
If I may add a little bit about when you talk about the ACLs, you're right. And to the comment guy who made a comment, you popped up, Cody, you're right. He's right. But let's understand something. Till Brooks gets on the field and proves otherwise, he's always going to carry that label that he had 2 torn ACLs back to back, and he's questionable whether he can stay healthy. Thomas Davis had 3, and he still carried that label until he started listening to Luke Kuechly and actually started playing great linebacker. Before Luke came next to Thomas Davis was an okay linebacker, but he wasn't a world beater. Till he got with Luke, then he started being that guy, because he stayed a lot healthier then.
We had less to carry then too,
right? So things changed, and Brooks ain't going to be no different. He's going to carry that label until he gets on the field and proves it. And this is going to take all this season. He's not going to lose that label because he plays in 3 games and he's healthy. Plays in 4 games, he's healthy. If he goes out and plays in 5 games and all of a sudden he rips a knee out, he'll never get rid of that label.
We're getting ready to talk about Jonathan Brooks here soon, because Joe Person has him as one of his stock risers in his newest article. Let's take our last cat call. Again, there's still more time if you want to call in. The number's 252-228-5098.
Hey guys, John B. Jenkins calling in with a quick
What's up, John B?
Football League update for you guys. But the National Arena League just concluded their season and had their championship game featuring the Southwest Kansas Storm and the Salina Liberty. And these are two teams that were actually in the Arena Football League 1 last year, or the AF1. And they dropped down a league into the NAL and dominated the leagues and ended up in the championship game. For a while there, if you remember, there were teams like the Pueblo Punishers and even the Omaha Beefs found themselves back into the playoffs with their orange jerseys and their orange field. But yeah, the Southwest Kansas Storm came out on top. And then moving over to the Arena League, our Ozarks Lunkers, that's right, do you know what a Lunker is? Are unfortunately 1-3.
Fish.
But those games are all featured on YouTube as always. Again, all of these leagues this year seem to have reverted back to YouTube coverage. So if you're like me, and if I've done my job right, your YouTube feed now has at least a little bit of peppering of some alternative football leagues in there for you, and so you can watch the live games or just the replays of any of these leagues. But the Arena League is some good football. And then AF1 has been good as well. But then I'm going to wrap this up with the American Football League of Europe. Our Panthers Wroclaw are tearing up the league. And I said last week it was a 16 league. It is an 8-team league. The European Football Alliance is the 16 league. But anyway, the Panthers Wroclaw currently are 3-1. So anyway, that is your alternative football league update for this week. This has been John B. Jenkins calling in. As always, keep pounding Carolina Panthers, keep pounding Panthers Wroclaw, go fish, and keep pounding C3 Panthers Podcast. John B. Jenkins out. Oh, also,
John B.
P.S. It's me and my wife's anniversary tonight, so I snuck this call.
Happy anniversary.
Love you guys.
Happy anniversary, John B. Appreciate you, brother. And appreciate you for giving us that little slice of alternative Panthers football to keep us satiated until the time comes. We have some more cat calls that came in, but let's continue on with the show. And while you guys are talking about these next topics, I'll upload some more. So this is from Joe Person. Everybody go subscribe to The Athletic. Joe Person is the OG Panthers beat reporter, and he has great coverage over there at The Athletic. And he did some stock risers and fallers this year. And let's start with the risers. It says stock up Jalen Coker and Bryce Young. Coker's stock not only jumped figuratively this month, so did his actual stock portfolio, thanks to a 3-year, $34 million extension that should keep the number 2 wide receiver in Carolina through 2029. And he also mentioned
things like that.
He also mentioned Bryce Young. Young makes the list not necessarily because of what he did with his arm or legs, but how he used his voice from the first OTA practice when he railed on his receivers and tight ends for dropping passes, following a sudden rainstorm, to the opening minicamp where he jawed with edge rusher Jalen Phillips and other members of the team's defense. Young has set the tone. I am really hopeful that this year Bryce is going to be a more vocal leader. But Greg, we didn't get to hear your opinion on this these past 2 weeks. What did you make of Jalen Coker and the new contract that he signed Carolina? What do you think that means for him and the offense going forward?
I love it. I really do. I love it. I think that he's earned it. I think that it obviously shows that he's taken the next step above XL, which he should be because he's a better receiver. And in this list right here where they have both of them listed as upward going players, they're both very dependent on each other because, if either one of them plays terrible or plays bad, it's going to affect the other. But as far as Jalen Coker, I have no problem calling him our number 2 guy. I think he has proven over the last couple of years that he is that diamond in the rough that we found. He's, I don't want to say the next kind of Steve Smith, but he kind of has that grit and that potential to be. Steve Smith wasn't great from the beginning, but he had the breakout time and he was drafted late. I think Jalen Coker, the signing, was a phenomenal idea. And I think that when you have a guy like that, when you show him the respect of giving him the money and giving him the bag, that he's going to pay it off. And he's going to give us the plays we need and the kind of, I don't know, it's not going to be wasted money. I think that it was a great idea to pay him. I think he's so much better than XL. And everybody has this hope that XL is going to come up and be prove everybody wrong this year. I don't think he's going to get the opportunity to be honest with you. I really don't. I think that Coker has already sealed his spot as number 2, Test number 1. I don't think that XL is going to have the chance to prove that he was the guy he was drafted to be. Not on the Panthers. XL reminds me of a Brandon LaFell, to be honest with you.
Oh,
I can see that. I really do.
I don't know. I feel like I'm one of the only people holding out hope for XL. I
hope he plays great. I know he put in work this year.
I know that he's dropped 10 pounds.
Right.
He is, according to Dave Canales, he said that he's been the best wide receiver at OTAs. I think that because they moved up into the first round to draft him, they are going to give XL every opportunity to prove them correct in their initial evaluation. And here's to hoping, man.
Agree.
They put the fire underneath them when they drafted Chris Brazel in the third round, a 6'4" wide receiver that can run a 4.3. Like, that's for a reason. They think that he can be a meaningful contributor.
Well, here's the difference: is XL has to prove himself to be on this team. Coker and Tet have already proven themselves. They're already locked in. XL's the guy that has to break in and prove himself, and it would probably help you learn how to speak English. That would probably help. But
that's real country folk English. What you talking about?
That the way he talks is actually a draw. That draws fans.
Yeah, it really does. It endears him to people.
It really does draw men.
That's why he was at the Kentucky Derby. That's why he was
the NFL. When he was at the Kentucky Derby, the NFL called him up and asked him if he would go. Because they needed an NFL rep there, so they sent him there.
Yeah, if that's a draw,
of course he was going to say.
Yeah. I'm just saying, if that's a draw, that's a preschool draw with a crayon. That's what that is.
Hey, man.
No, you know what that is? That's a Southern draw.
That's what South Carolina brings you, my friend.
Bro, I'm from Louisiana, man. Like, you don't get more Southern draw than that. I don't speak that because I've been there. But I'm just saying, I can understand people in Louisiana.
Any other site I go to, as far as, because I do this rumor thing online a lot, they always ask about XL. XL this. They love the way he talks. People love the way he talks. I kind of agree with you. I mean, I would rather him just talk regular English and be done with it. But that's the way he talks. So I don't want to harp too much on. Listen, I was raised in West Virginia, so I understand when you come down, y'all. I've been to places where they'll say, "Where'd you learn to talk at?" And you have to adapt. So
yeah.
And personally, look, I like the way he talks. I think that it would be even better if he had the play style to match it, and I'm hoping that that's what he's able to do this year. By the way, Greg, you mentioned being from Louisiana. I want to give a shout out and give a round of tell everyone to keep their thoughts and prayers. In Louisiana right now, my family is from Plocheville, Louisiana, which is a very, out there part of Louisiana. But Tropical Storm Alexander went through Louisiana and basically dropped almost 20 inches of rain in the course of 24 hours. So we have many family and friends that are flooded out, that have literally lost the homes that they've been in forever. So if you're the praying type, keep them in your thoughts and prayers. And maybe if you can find some places to donate online, it would certainly be a big help. So thoughts and prayers to those in Louisiana, Mooresville, Cottonport, Plocherville. They really got hammered hard. But our next riser, Corey Thornton. Now, Thornton exploded onto the scene last year. He was an undrafted free agent. Person writes, Thornton managed to make an impression despite playing behind J.C. Horn and Mike Jackson, who were amongst the NFL's best cornerback duos. Thornton, an undrafted free agent from Louisville in 2025, was pushing Charles Smith-Wade as a top nickel before a broken fibula ended his rookie season in November. But the 6'1", 195-pounder showed no ill effects, lining up at 3 spots in the secondary and driving to intercept Young in the team drills and OTA practice. All that work he's put in the first year is paying off for him, Coach Dave Canales said. Listen, I think that Corey Thornton is going to be a meaningful contributor to this defensive backfield this year. I really do think that they like what he brings to the game. He's a long, strong corner, and I think that he even has a leg up on our 4th-round pick from Texas A&M. What do you think, Pickle?
I agree. I think he's going to be our starting nickel at the beginning of the year. I really do. I don't see. I like our rookie we drafted. I think he's going to play a lot on the outside. I think as a rookie, he's going to help us a lot on the outside, but that's depth. But I think this guy right here, Corey Thornton, here's my opinion. I think Corey Thornton plays so good, Charles Smith-Wade is cut if final roster cuts.
Yeah, I think so too. Greg, what do you think? Corey Thornton, is he going to continue to be the guy at nickel this year?
To be honest with you, man, I haven't been keeping up with it that much. I got no thoughts. Like I don't know what he's going to end up doing in the end. I know we got Mike Jackson and J.C. Horn, and I'm just kind of riding behind those two guys and see what happens after that.
If you remember last year when we played the Browns in preseason, he was the dude that like body slammed a wide receiver on the Browns. he's a dog. But listen, speaking of undrafted free agents, Jalen Coker in 2024 busted onto the scene, and now he's been paid. Corey Thornton, who we just mentioned, probably going to be a starter this year. Boys, I'm calling it. We might have our next guy who's an undrafted free agent who might be a meaningful contributor to the team this year. Defensive lineman Aaron Hall, with Turk Wharton out indefinitely after a neck procedure and a 2nd-round pick Lee Hunter missing the first practice due to a personal reason. Hall had opportunities to show he belongs on the roster. The undrafted free agent from Duke took advantage. The 6'4", 296-pound Hall added 50 pounds over his 5 seasons in Durham, which helped him hold up at the point of attack during Panthers spring practices. But Hall isn't just a space eater. He's also shown an ability to shed blocks and make tackles. So again, I don't know a ton about Aaron Hall, but it would be cool for Dan Morgan if for the 3rd year in a row he can find an undrafted free agent that is being a meaningful contributor to this team, especially in the trenches. Like, that would be awesome. That would just be the coolest. So I'm hoping that they can do that. And the last bit of risers, Jatavion Sanders and Jonathan Brooks, the Texas teammates, are lumped together here because both look good running around while returning from leg injuries. Sanders broke his ankle on the first play from scrimmage in a Week 17 loss to the Seahawks, while Brooks missed all of 2025 after a second torn ACL late in his rookie season. There are bigger tests ahead for Brooks, who said he still wasn't back to his top speed during OTAs. But if the 2 draft picks from 2024 can return to their pre-injury forms, it will be a boost for Brad Idzik in his first season as an offensive play caller. So we talked a little bit about Jonathan Brooks, but there's even been some rumors that we might try to add to the to our room in free agency even further at the tight end room. If we don't think that Mitchell Evans and Jatavion Sanders are the guys, do you think that Sanders can actually be who we drafted him to be, or do you think we probably will end up looking to upgrade the tight end room before the season starts in full?
Well, I mean, there's only one guy out there that you can think of for a tight end that's a free agent that would be worth it right now, right?
There's two technically.
Okay. I'm thinking Njoku. Who's the other guy?
No, Njoku went to the Chargers.
Did he? Oh, okay, I didn't see that.
Yeah,
Well,
he went to the Chargers.
he's on my fantasy team, so okay, I'm cool with that. But who's the other two?
Well, we're actually gonna talk about him in the very last slide. This is actually coming up here soon. But what about Jatavion Sanders and Pickle and Greg? Do you think that he can actually be a player that we can depend on in the offense this year?
No, I do not. I think he's lost too much weight. I liked him coming in. He was the guy that if they would have took him in the second round, I'd have been all right with it. I would have been all right. If they would have took him in the first, I would have said it's a little early, but what the hell? You know, I liked him that much. But like I said, when we drafted him, he's got to work on his blocking, and he can't lose any weight. He's lost a crap load of weight each year. He's been nothing but hurt, and he looked worse at blocking this year than he did his rookie year. Rookie year, I chalked it up on learning what he was doing. This past year's season, he looked nothing like a tight end who can line up. And whether he likes it or not, that's where we need him to play. They're not going to invent a position just so he can go out there and pretend he's a wide receiver. I think I think this is his last year here.
Okay.
Honestly, I think Pickle nailed it there. To be honest with you, I'm kind of the same way with Sanders. Like he hasn't shown me enough to make me think that he's like a tight end. That's a guy that I kind of base a lot of things on fantasy. Like you're going to look at guys you would draft from on your team. He's not even the guy I would look at twice. I don't think he's going to be a productive offensive weapon. Maybe he's okay in the blocking end, but with him losing weight, it's not a big thing, or not a good thing for him. I don't think he's the guy we drafted him to be. To be truly honest with you, I think he's one of those guys that maybe he can play in this league as a second string tight end, maybe as depth, but he was drafted to be a starting tight end, and he was good in college. I don't think he's going to be that ever in the pros. Maybe he'll prove me wrong, and I hope he does. But I don't think he's the guy in the future, to be honest with you.
Right now, I think Mitchell Evans is the best tight end we have on the roster.
Yeah.
Right.
And he was a rookie last year.
Right. And to expand a little bit on in this offense, in the offense that we're projected to run, since the offense that we're using since Canales has been here, it's been an offense where the tight end lines next to the tackle blocks until he get in a lane. Occasionally you'll see them go to a runner route, but a lot of those are full routes, and that we don't really use a core receiving tight end here. And yes, I know some folks, Anthony, will say, well, if we had one, we'd use him. Probably not unless he can block. People want to name tight ends in the league, whether trade or free agency. If they can't block good enough.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's the biggest aspect of a tight end that you need to be able to do if you're going to see the field. We got three more calls. Let's power through them, and then we can finish out the show.
Hey guys, this is Harvey down here in Somerville.
What's up, Harvey?
Just like to get Pickle and Greg's thoughts on Xavier Legette this upcoming season. Wonder if you guys think he's gonna progress, or do you think there's a legitimate chance he will not be with us at the beginning of the season or get traded at some point in the season? And also, I'd like to know what the panel thinks about Jonathan Brooks. You know, all the positive reviews and information that we're getting, I can't help but start to get a little excited about it, even though just like everybody else, I'm a little worried about his injury history. But I'd just like to get your thoughts on both those topics.
I'll go
Harvey from
first.
Somerville, keep pounding.
Appreciate you, Harvey. You're the man, dude. Jonathan Brooks, I'm really excited about. And part of the reason why is because I believe in the offensive line that we have set up on this team. And I'm a firm believer that, yeah, he's had some injuries. But if we have this offensive line making holes like they did for Rico Dowdle last year, I think we can see a really good version of Jonathan Brooks this year. And I have no problem saying that I'm believing in him. Now, when it comes to XL, I feel like I'm one of his only believers at this point. I mean, I won't speak for anyone else, but I think that XL can still really turn into a good player. Whether or not he will here, I think maybe that's another story. But I think that the Panthers, for sure, are going to give him every single opportunity to live up to that draft pick. And I am excited. And I think, dude, pressure either makes diamonds or it bursts pipes. And now that he has a bunch of competition around him, I do think that Xavier Legette, that, you know, whether he's long-term or not, I think you're going to see the best of Xavier Legette this year. Guys, I know you've spoken on it, but just a little bit on XL and Jonathan Brooks.
Well, I think Brooks has way more upside than XL does, and that's only because I've seen XL be garbage. I haven't seen Brooks be garbage yet. I also have a little bit of a bias because, you know, Brooks is my running back on Madden, and I've been absolutely crushing it with Brooks on Madden. But that's a video game, so it's not really. I mean, sometimes it kind of projects out to be a little real in the actual NFL, but I mean, Brooks is killing it for me on Madden. But at the same time,
on Madden, he is better.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, he's definitely my guy on Madden. I just need this. I guess for me, both of them are kind of a prove it year. You know, like I think this is the last year for both of them. You've got to show me you're good enough to be on this team. You're going to be a contributor to this team, or go. And I think that XL has a much thinner line to work with right now, just because we've seen him and we've seen all the bad parts of XL right now. We've seen a few good things, but we've seen all the bad parts. We haven't seen all the bad parts of Jonathan Brooks yet. And hopefully, both of them work out to be great. I'm not wishing either of them to be bad, because I would love for both of them to work out. That's great for me if they both work out. I'm a Panthers fan. I want to see good players. But I think they're both on the last leg of being able to prove they're worthy of their draft pick on this team.
Yep.
They're both entering year 3. Brooks, I personally believe both of them are going to be all right. I really do. I think I wouldn't shock me at the end of if Brooks breaks out and has a great year. Wouldn't be shock me the next year he's pushing Chuba for the starting job. Now, that being said, he needs to have that. If he struggles with injuries this year, he'll only have next year to prove himself to get any new contract. While XL, still they can use a 5th-year option on him if they choose to. I believe XL is going to be here until his contract expires. I don't know that they'll use a 5th-year option on him, but yep. But then of course they have to decide that next year, at the end of April, 1st of March, at the end of April, like they normally do, 1st of May. It's going to come due, and Xavier Legette they'll have to decide if they're using the 5th-year option on him. So does he show up enough this year that they're going to say yes, let's use the 1st-year option on him?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've got a good question before we get off this. What for both Brooks and XL? Give me the numbers they have to put up this year for us to feel like they deserve either that 5th-year option, or to continue playing, or for us to have confidence that they're going to move forward with the Panthers. Like for XL, what's the yards, touchdowns that he needs to get this year for us to really feel good about him being on this team?
I would say for XL, 750 yards and at least 6 touchdowns. I mean,
Okay.
considering, I think that's, reasonable considering Christian Watson on the Packers, like Tony brought up the other day, that he just got a big contract and he's never had more than 6 touchdowns in the season. And then I think for Jonathan Brooks, I don't know. To me, I think between 500 to 600 rushing yards in the season, I think would be probably pretty good for him, considering, let's be real, this is going to be his rookie season that he's going into this year.
Well,
And
it
I
depends on
think
the
that's
split
not
too with
necessarily.
Hubbard.
Yeah, right. And he's going to split with Hubbard. So I think that's reasonable. And maybe him getting into the end zone like 4 times, I think would be good for 2026 going into 2027.
Oh,
What you pickle?
XL put up 3 touchdowns his rookie year, 4 last year. He had 363 yards last year of 497 yards this year. For me, if I'm making that decision, I need to see at least 700 yards, and I need to see at least 4 touchdowns.
Okay.
For Brooks,
That's a tough
Brooks is
one.
gonna, Brooks is going to share the load anyway. And if they still plan to give Chuba the max carries, yards wise, I'll just say 400 yards. 400 yards rushing, couple TDs.
Yeah, that's what I said. I think that would be a
because
good number.
he's
for
going to
him
have
this
to.
year.
If Chuba stays healthy and they share the load, then that's where they'll go. Anyway.
Okay, so just to counter to that right there, and this with Brooks, because I'm looking at XL as being the number 3 receiver, but he's still got to prove himself. With Brooks, y'all are saying about 400 yards and a few touchdowns. If that's the
I would
case,
say like 5 touchdowns would be a good number if he could get this year, and splitting touches with Chuba. I think that would be a good number.
well, that's what I was going to say. If that's the case, what do you put Chuba at? Let's say we put Brooks at 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. What do you think Chuba is going to get with that split? Like, are we looking at 1,000 yards from Chuba and 7-8 touchdowns?
I mean, if we could have 1,000-yard rusher again with Chuba, that would be awesome. I'll say, yeah, man. Right now we're in the off season. I'm gonna continue smoking the hopium. I'm gonna say between 800 to 1,000 yards, and I'll say, maybe 8 or 9 touchdowns for Chuba.
Okay.
No, Chuba, I need over 1,000 yards. In order for me to say he's a bona fide number 1 back going into next year, he has to get 1,000 yards. He has to get over 1,000. Whatever, because Chuba. Here's my solution. Here's my situation. Chuba was benched last year. That guy put up 1,000. Rico put up 1,076 yards and 6 touchdowns. Chuba did play hurt last year, but Chuba only put up 511 yards and 1 touchdown last year. I need to see a lot more from Chuba before I'm going to. And if Chuba ends up losing the starting job for any reason, or Brooks looks tremendously better like he does on Madden, then you have to ask yourself going into next year, how safe is Chuba on the roster? He's a great leader, locker room leader. He's an excellent locker room leader, but locker room leader don't give you W.
Yeah, that's a good point. 2 more calls.
Hey, this is Tim Stillings. I just wanted to say again,
What up, Tim?
it's awesome watching your show and all your content.
Appreciate
And that, I think you are therapy to a lot of Panthers fans out there. So thank you for what you do, and thank you again for your podcast. I hope you guys are doing great. Bye.
Keep pounding, Tim. Appreciate you,
pounding.
man. That means a ton, man. Final call.
What's up, y'all? It's Lucas from Far City.
What's up,
Shout
Luke?
out to my boy Bryce Young making the top 100. Y'all, this is going to be the future for our quarterback. Nothing but rising up 98 this year, maybe 80 next year, and hell, maybe number one the year after that. Going to be a bright future for our quarterback. Hey, and also, hey, Pickle, 1998 called. They want their college football team back. Go Tigers.
Yeah, go Tigers, baby.
Hey, I love the optimism, and I agree. If Bryce can go up from here, that's fantastic. I think saying number one is a little. I think even if Bryce Young, wins the Super Bowl in the next 2-3 years and is the Super Bowl MVP, he's not going to be the number one player in the top 100 ever. Sorry, I just feel that way. Now, if that ever happens, I will gladly say I'm wrong, and that'd be great if he was. But I do want to see Bryce progress, and I think that he will over the next few years. I think he'll progress. But number one is you're talking about Cam Newton kind of status right there, and I don't think Bryce is ever going to reach that.
Yeah, I think number one is reserved for the kind of quarterbacks that can shoulder a football team.
Cam never made number one, though, did he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. Yeah, in 2016, he made number one when he made MVP. I think those are reserved for the quarterbacks like the Josh Allens, the Lamar Jacksons, the Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
Right now, there's no reason for us to put Bryce on that level. Maybe he does transcend to that, but even still, man, think about how many really good quarterbacks that have been in the NFL, and since this list has been a thing since 2011, have never made number one. I don't think Drew Brees has ever been the number one quarterback. I don't think Matthew Stafford has ever been the number one quarterback. I don't believe Aaron Rodgers has been the number one quarterback. But again, it's Aaron Rodgers. He's for sure when he does retire, a first ballot Hall of Famer. So I do think that it doesn't even necessarily matter if enough NFL players feel like he is the very best player in the NFL. And if they do, it means that he's undeniable. So it's a good thing either way. But in order for the Panthers and Panther fans to get everything that they want, he doesn't even necessarily need to be number one.
Agreed. Yeah, I just want to see improvement, and I think that we're on the right path for Bryce Young to be a solid quarterback. Bryce Young is never going to be the reason that we're going to every game and feel confident we're going to win every game. But I think he can definitely not be the reason we feel like we're going to lose, if that makes sense. I don't feel like we're going to go into a game dreading the fact that we have Bryce Young as our quarterback. But we're also not going to go into the game and say, okay, Bryce Young is going to lead us to victory every week. Well, I'm sorry. I'm coming from the Cam Newton era. I've watched this team since their inception, but I'm kind of spoiled by Cam Newton, where I went into every game thinking Cam Newton was going to win that game for us.
I understand that. I do. I don't think Bryce Young will ever be on that level that Cam got ever. No. I'm nowhere near it. But I don't think we'll ever have a quarterback like that again. I just don't.
No, I agree.
Maybe I truly hope I'm wrong someday. I really do. But I don't think we'll ever be that way. I don't think we'll ever get to that level. And even then, we didn't draft Cam Newton thinking he was going to be at that level. We drafted him, and he said, I want to be that entertainer. And even then, that was a different owner that was in charge when we drafted Cam. We don't know how the current group, as we have it, and I've gotten conversations with Cody on this, I don't believe our current head coach ever wants to draft a quarterback. I just don't. I believe if it's all up to him, he doesn't want to draft a quarterback. He doesn't want to develop a rookie quarterback. He's never developed a rookie quarterback. I believe he always wants to deal with vets.
And that's fine, honestly, because sometimes that may be the best thing to do. But to be fair, and me saying this, like I said, I compare them on a bar of Cam Newton at his prime in 2015, his peak. And people can say what they want to about Cam, but that was one of the best NFL seasons by a quarterback ever put up.
Yeah.
Like people can say whatever they want to. It was the second best record ever in the NFL. 15-1, second best record ever put up in the NFL. He put up MVP numbers. He did things on the ground and in the air. And if you go back and watch that 2015 season and watch those games, Cam Newton was unstoppable that year. Like people can say whatever they want to about him, his outfits, his personality, his years before, his years after. But that specific season, Cam Newton was one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game, statistically and everything else. Like it may have been an anomaly. It may have just been that 1 year because whatever. But that was one of the best years ever for a quarterback to play the game.
45 total touchdowns, 35 through the air, 10 on the ground. Dude, even though we lost that one game against Atlanta, I will never forget. It was like 3rd and 9, and Cam Newton drug like 7 Falcons players to the first down marker.
Yeah.
Like the dude was just built different. And, we're always going to do this thing about comparing Bryce Young to Cam Newton. And no matter how much people love it or hate it, you can never compare them. Because even if Bryce Young transcends to another level, the game that Bryce plays is fundamentally different from the game that Cam Newton plays. They're not going to win the same way.
It's also goes beyond Cam, goes beyond Bryce. If we're in a situation that we've got to draft a quarterback, when we drafted Bryce, a lot of people wanted the entertainer back. They wanted a guy who could do all the things Cam could do. And people need to, well, I don't mean this literally, but people need to love Cam for who he was, but understand you're never going to get that back. Mm-hmm. You're never going to get that entertainer back. You're never going to get that guy back. You're never going to get a quarterback who was as big as he was, who could do exactly what Cody just said, drag half the team down to the end zone. You're never going to get that guy back. At the very same, that guy can step in the pocket and throw a 90-yard accurate ball like he could back in those days before the injuries to his shoulder took it out. You're never going to get that guy back. They don't make them in the laboratories anymore. So when you go out and you decide, okay, we get to a point we're going to draft another quarterback, then we need to understand who we're drafting is who we're going to get as far as the talent that's presented in that draft. You're never going to get a Cam Newton back, to me, because I feel a lot of people are still upset because we didn't go the Anthony Richardson route. And to be honest with you, that would have been, as it currently stands, that would have been a disaster worse than what we got.
All right, so we only have go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I will say there'll never be another one like Cam, but Josh Allen's pretty damn close.
Yeah,
well, I agree with that, but
Josh Allen,
but Josh Allen had to be developed.
Right, but this is what I'll say.
So did Cam.
But this is what I'll say. If you look at everything that Josh Allen has accomplished, I believe that if Cam Newton didn't get hurt in 2016, that was the trajectory that Cam Newton was on.
I agree. If we didn't change owners, they need to get hurt. I agree. We changed owners, and that's what screwed Cam Newton's career over right there.
Cam Newton laid the blueprint for a player like a Josh Allen. Like, I think and Allen fixed some of the accuracy problems that Cam Newton had, but also remember we have to really look at what history was actually doing right there. Before Cam Newton got injured, under North Turner, Cam Newton was playing his most accurate football of his career. That's why I have no problem saying that Cam Newton was on a Josh Allen trajectory in terms of fixing the footwork, fixing some of the mistakes that he made accuracy-wise. If he maintained his power, you're right. Like you said earlier, Greg, there was a chance that he could still be playing like Matthew Stafford and fucking 90-year-old Joe Flacco or whatever.
It's fair to say, though, what I think is you were talking about the downfall camp. I think David Gettleman had a large part in that. Even the hiring of North Turner. David Gettleman didn't want to hire North Turner, but Ron Rivera had contractual in his contract he could hire his own offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
And David Gettleman presented a guy who ended up being the Browns head coach, got fired because he was that bad, but that's who David Gettleman wanted as our OC that year. But instead, I think David Gettleman's failure to build on the 2016-15 season, his failure to build on that season was as equally hurt Cam Newton and the Panthers as anything else ever did. Because we didn't build on the offensive line. We didn't build on the corner. I mean, let's remember our draft right after that year. We had a 31st or draft. We drafted Vernon Butler after giving the 2-star KK money. So I mean, it was a dumb draft. And even then, none of the coaches wanted Vernon Butler. The defensive coaches didn't want him, and the offensive coaches didn't want him.
If you
But
remember,
Gettleman wanted him.
And when you remember why K'Wan Short was due for a brand new contract, and they didn't know if they were going to extend him. The only reason they drafted Vernon Butler was as an insurance policy in case we didn't re-sign K'Wan Short. That's it.
And he never turned out to be worthy of that first round pick regardless. So again, David Gettleman, and it wasn't like there was better talent there. If they would have took Derrick Henry, drafting Derrick Henry instead of Vernon Butler would have likely added years to Cam Newton's career.
Yeah. But hey, let's continue to power through these. These are some of the losers on Joe Person's list in terms of stock down. Turk Wharton, who had another neck injury, or I don't know about another, but he had neck surgery this past offseason after being very disappointing last year. Aaron Hall, who's an undrafted free agent, is already looking like he might be a more meaningful contributor than Tershawn Wharton. And Jimmy Horn Jr., Horn's last year's 6th-round pick, didn't have a bad spring, but his place on the depth chart became a little tenuous with the additions of Chris Brazel and John Mechie, and the return of veteran David Moore, who didn't play last season after blowing out his elbow in a Week 4 loss to the Patriots. Mechie has the benefit of having played with Young at Alabama, while the Panthers hope Brazel can be a home run threat. Horn caught 11 passes for 108 yards as a rookie and only played 5 special team snaps all season. Does Jimmy Horn Jr. have a place on this team? I don't know why we don't have him on kick returns and punt returns. I think that he's being underutilized. But if you're talking about just as a wide receiver on this team, to me, it's going to be a lot harder for Jimmy Horn Jr. to make the team now.
Go ahead. I have an opinion about Jimmy Horn Jr.
I was going to say, I think he's living off pedigree and name. And besides
I think Jimmy Horn Jr. was drafted by Dan Morgan. And I don't believe Dave Canales wanted him, period. I think Jimmy Horn Jr. is smaller. He is like, I think, 5'8". So he's really shorter than Bryce. And as I said it before, I believe when he runs his route in the open field, I don't believe Bryce can see him. And I take that by listening to what Brock Purdy said, and he's slightly taller than Bryce, that in the open fields, he has troubles. Most of the time, he throws the ball where the receivers should be. Of course, they've got elite route runners down there, so that helps. Plus, they got Christian McCaffrey, so that helps a great deal. But because I watched them film, and I know Jimmy gets open. He can play wide receiver. But the reason why they don't use him on special teams is because Dave Canales said it last year in training camp. He doesn't believe Jimmy Horn Jr. with his small frame, could take a big hit. So he doesn't want to put him out there. And I believe that's entirely what that reasoning is. I don't believe Jimmy Horn Jr. will make the 53-man roster. I don't think he'll make the
when you have
roster.
a quarterback like Bryce Young, who's 5'10", it probably benefits to be a taller wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, I'm not trying to hold the size against Jimmy Horn, but I do think that there is some truth to that. When you're 5'10", you probably would like a wide receiver who's 6'2" and above. But speaking of quarterbacks, he mentioned the backup quarterbacks. on the downturn here. He said specifically the Panthers' backup quarterbacks had to throw. Non-padded practices almost always favor defensive linemen who have less for old linemen to latch on to as pass rushers try to speed their way into the backfield. It's also worth noting that all three reserve quarterbacks are new to the offensive system. Couple all that with the fact that the Panthers were breaking in rookie left tackle Monroe Freeling and rookie center Sam Hecht, along with their second and third lines, respectively. And you get a sense of why Kenny Pickett, Will Greer, and Haynes King had plenty of chances to run this spring. The same was true of Young, though seemingly not as often, but things should even out when the pads come on and the reserve offensive linemen get more comfortable working alongside each other. Boys, do we think that Kenny Pickett's going to be the backup quarterback for the team this year? Or is there a chance that either Greer or Haynes King should play on team?
I would absolutely love Haynes King to take that job. I like Haynes King, though, and I've liked him since I watched him play in a couple of college games. I just like him. I like the way he can run. I like his attitude. I just like Haynes King, and he'll probably never be no more than a third quarterback, probably a practice squad guy, but I still like him. Kenny Pickett's all right. But all three of these quarterbacks are better than Andy Dalton that I saw last year.
I agree. Haynes King and the Yellow Jackets. They beat
I would take Haynes King and that dude that played in the UFL that we had on our roster once over Andy Dalton.
Haynes King was a really good player in the ACC last year. Some people want him to be our own Taysom Hill. I don't know how likely.
I don't want him to be the physical guy that Taysom Hill was. I just want him to be a quarterback we use. That's what I want him to be. I don't want the hiking the ball and running up the middle like Taysom Hill does. Yeah. I just don't. I think there's a reason why Taysom Hill has never been a real quarterback.
Greg, what do you think is who do you think is going to be our backup this year?
I think Pickett will be the backup, even though I hate a quarterback that's last name starts with Pick. Just simply for the nomenclature or the wording of that.
Pick, so.
But I do got to defend Andy Dalton right here. While I do think that just because of youth, these guys are better than Andy Dalton. I got to give Andy Dalton some respect, man. The guy got drafted in 2011, same year as Cam Newton, and I think Andy Dalton, is a fringe Hall of Fame quarterback. To be truly honest with you, I mean the guy put up insane numbers when he was at the peak of his career. I love Cam Newton, and Cam Newton had a better overall season in 2015 than Andy Dalton's ever had. But Andy Dalton had a better career than Cam Newton had. Now he had AJ Green and a few other people, because AJ Green got drafted.
I don't know if I agree with you on that one, man.
Andy Dalton
got drafted the same year as Cam. 2011.
Andy Dalton's never won a playoff game ever. All the times he played for Cincinnati Bengals, he went to the playoffs quite often, but they never won a playoff game.
That's fair, but if you look at Andy Dalton's stats, Andy Dalton has been a great quarterback almost his whole career. And shoot, when Andy Dalton had to come in for the Carolina Panthers and play, he was a great quarterback the majority. Except for like one or two games, he was a great quarterback for Carolina when he played. Now, given the time right now, because of Andy Dalton's age, I think that we have better options than putting Andy Dalton behind there. I mean, come on. We benched Bryce, and Andy Dalton threw for 400 yards the next game.
No, listen, I think that
for those one or two games he did. Right, after that, he played off his veteran leadership, and that's about it.
But I think that there were times when Andy Dalton was far more comfortable pushing the football downfield in this Panthers offense. And I do think that benefited us. That game where we almost beat the Seahawks with Andy Dalton, then he beat the Raiders. Like, there were times when Andy Dalton was good. I think because of what Pickle said, because Andy Dalton has never won a playoff game, I don't think you can say he had a better career than Cam. Even if the passing yard numbers may have been better, I think what you do in the postseason ultimately determines that. But neither of these guys are going to make the Hall of Fame. And I love
but
Cam Newton. I want him to.
I said he's fringe. But yeah, I agree. Yeah.
They would both be fringe if they were ever going to be in it.
Well, strictly stat, I'm sure he had more stats than Cam did as far as strictly stat wise goes. Because Cam run and Andy really didn't run. I don't think Andy ran.
Also, the amount of rushing touchdowns doesn't compare either.
Well, I would say Andy Dalton was a better consistent passer than Cam ever was, minus maybe Cam's best year. But Andy Dalton
I might agree to that. I would probably agree to that.
He also had AJ Green his whole career. You know,
yeah, that's another good point.
Right,
the best players that Andy Dalton has pales in comparison.
Right.
I mean, Cam Newton wasn't working, but anywhere near the type of players that Andy Dalton was.
And it's fair to say it wasn't because the Panthers GMs didn't try; they just couldn't draft. They couldn't draft.
Yeah, I mean, they thought Kelvin Benjamin was going to be the number one for years to come.
Again, I go back and reserve that to all the coaches told what's the name of that? He played for the Packers for a long time. I think he plays for the Cowboys now. But maybe not. But anyway, come on, Jake, you're in the chat. You know what I'm talking about. They told him they were going to draft him. The coaches did. They explained it to him that they were going to draft him with the
Devontae Adams.
Yeah. Then Gettleman said, "No, I don't want to draft him. I want to draft this other guy." So he pulled trump card and turned around and drafted Calvin Benjamin.
There's so many of what could have been, would have been in Panthers.
I mean, again, David Gettleman's goal in life was to screw Cam Newton. I'll just say that outright.
So, I agree with that. But to be fair, Kelvin Benjamin had a better rookie season than Julio Jones did. And Devontae Adams hasn't really done anything in the NFL as far as being an elite receiver without Aaron Rodgers.
To be fair, if they would attach a coupon for a Big Mac to the football, Calvin Benjamin probably would have played better.
But hold on,
I agree.
I think that wasn't he one of the best players as a wide receiver like a year or two ago? Devontae Adams,
not one of the best. No, he went to the Rams and he was behind Puka Nacua. He wasn't one of the best. He was good.
Well, by the time he got there, he's gotten old anyway.
There's no reason to ever be fair to Kelvin Benjamin. I still hold Kelvin Benjamin. Kelvin Benjamin responsible for it was in 2016 versus the Chargers. Cam threw an interception in the end zone, and if Kelvin Benjamin at least tries to go for the football and doesn't act like such a lazy son of a bitch, Cam Newton doesn't have to chase the defender 99 yards and land on that arm, which is what started that shoulder injury, dude.
That's fair. I'll give you that.
Yeah, there's no reason to ever be fair to Kelvin Benjamin. The last one of the decline is linebacker health. Trevor Wallace spent the spring in a red non-contact jersey after undergoing surgery in January, but at least Wallace was on the field. Outside linebacker Thomas Income and linebacker Bam Martin Scott were both sidelined with undisclosed injuries. Canales said Income or Inboom was underwent a cleanup procedure, but should be ready at the start of training camp. Martin Scott was cleared in June, but the Panthers held him out as a precaution. So the outlook is good for all three to go this summer. But boys, that has left the Panthers in a position where, we upgraded with Devin Lloyd, but the linebacker depth is honestly pretty terrible. Let me throw,
and
this is the final slides of the show, and then we'll get out of here. Let me throw some free agents at you, and you tell me what you think. What about linebacker Bobby Wagner?
Too old, and to be honest with you, he should have retired. There's a point. Remember what Luke said? Luke wanted to retire before basically he embarrassed himself. Ray Lewis' last few years on the league were an embarrassment to himself.
But hold on.
This is what Bobby Wagner is doing right now. But plus, Bobby Wagner's never played in a 3-4.
But remember this,
no, he has. He
But
played
let's-
1 year with the Rams.
You have to talk about the defense, though, and what he did last year with the Commanders. While Bobby Wagner isn't a long-term signing that will have the Panthers set for years to come, he provides an adult in the room, an ultimate leader on defense, and some production. Wagner was a reliable tackler in space, posting 79 solo tackles in 2025. That was tied for 5th in the NFL, and he had 4.5 sacks. So, he's an older guy, but if you're looking for depth, maybe Bobby Wagner, you could do a lot worse than him. It depends on how worried are you about that linebacker depth.
He's 35 years old. I think there's better, younger options out there, honestly. As far as intelligence, as far as reasoning, experience is what I'm trying to say. Experience, probably not. But anyway, I'll just leave it at that.
Well, I got 2 questions for you then, and I don't really know. I'm generally asking if there's better younger options. Who are they? And number 2, how old was Thomas Davis when we brought him into Carolina, and he had his resurgence?
Thomas Davis was probably
he was in his mid-20s, I think, or late 20s.
What? Was he in his late 20s?
I think he was in his early. I think after the third surgery, he was probably like 31, 32.
Yeah, so he wasn't much younger than. I could be wrong. But I'm pretty sure he was kind of on the tail end of his career and had a resurgence when he came to Carolina. The only thing I'm saying is I know Bobby Wagner is a proven linebacker, a Super Bowl winning linebacker that definitely has the pedigree to be a good guy, maybe be a mentor to some of the younger guys. And the only other question I would ask is, Pickle, if you say there's better, younger options out there, I truly don't know any, but I haven't been paying that much attention. Who would they be?
Well, to be honest, at this current time, there's a guy named Sims, who's a former first-round pick. Summers is available. Shaq Thompson is available. Now, Shaq's played under Rivero before. He knows the area, and he played as y'all talked about. He played excellent for the Bills last year. Excellent. He put up some good stats for the Bills last year.
I don't know. There's a sour taste in my mouth for Shaq Thompson. I'm not sure what it is.
Of course there is. And according to Google at Panthers.com, Thomas Davis Sr. was 28 when he suffered his third and most famous ACL injury.
But when did he sign with Carolina? That's my question. Was it 28?
When did he sign? He was drafted by Carolina.
Well, no, okay. When did he start? When did he play? Because he played for New Orleans too, right? When did he come back to Carolina?
Thomas Davis never played for New Orleans. He was drafted by Carolina as a rookie when Dan Morgan.
Then he played for the Commanders.
And he played his entire season. He played almost his entire career with Carolina. Then after the Super Bowl and all that stuff, he ended up playing 1 year with the Chargers. Because we cut him because we wanted to give Shaq.
Okay.
Then he played 1 year for the Chargers. Then he played a year for the Commanders and then retired.
Okay.
But even then, them year with the Chargers and the Commanders, he should have outright retired. He went to the Chargers, ended up having an affair on his wife, and is now going through a divorce. I mean, I shouldn't say that. That's what he said on the podcast. But anyway, so.
But did you mean Isaiah Simmons when you said Sims earlier, Pickle?
I think you did.
No, I didn't know. I did not. I'll look him up. I'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Let me look him up. I'll tell you.
But by the way,
me and you were real big on Isaiah Simmons when he got drafted.
Yeah, and he's on the team.
Yeah.
So
right.
If you have problems, if you have problems at linebacker and you need depth, why not give Isaiah Simmons a shot?
I'm all for that.
Why not? To me, just do that. That makes a lot of sense to me. But
I agree to that. But this team doesn't. They haven't. I read today. And it makes sense. Ejiro Rivero likes bigger linebackers, and I don't know. Listen, I'll show you my Madden game. I've got him at linebacker on my Madden game. I've always had him at linebacker. I liked him at linebacker for whatever reason. They want to play him as
Simmons.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's a big dude.
No, I'm sorry, it
Tall,
wasn't Simmons.
long,
It was Kenneth Murray.
Oh, well, he's not even on the team.
Well, no, none of these guys you're talking about are on the team.
Yeah, but Kenneth Murray's
You know what
signed
you're
to
talking
someone
about, right?
now. Yeah, but Kenneth Murray's signed right now, isn't he?
No, he's a free agent. Matt Milana is a free agent, although he's about to retire.
Yeah, he's been hurt a bunch with the Bills, though.
Right.
As
far as above options, you're not going to find a massive amount of people. Not right now.
If
you will
Kenneth Murray is
come cut
available,
days.
I wouldn't mind Kenneth Murray as an
Right.
option on this team.
Yeah.
Well, that we have options at linebacker, but we mentioned tight end earlier.
Walker Jr.
Hunter Henry, former. I mean, he's been everywhere. He's been with the
Deion Jones
Chargers.
is available.
He's been with the Chargers. He played with the Patriots last year. It says the Panthers are seemingly struck out. I believe he said the Panthers are struck out on veteran tight ends in the 2026 free agent cycle. Carolina could still sign a guy like John Smith or Darren Waller at this point, but it doesn't seem they want to. The tight end room in Carolina is currently one of the least exciting in the league, led by Tommy Tremble, Jatavian Sanders, and Mitchell Evans. Panthers need a tight end who has experience playing at a high level, and current New England Patriots tight end Hunter Henry is just that. Henry is fresh off of 768 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns, and would immediately enter as the Panthers tight end room as a go-to weapon. So what about Hunter Henry? Is this someone like? Do we really even need to upgrade the tight end room? I mean, there's not a lot of name talent, but I kind of feel like the Panthers are okay with who we have.
Yeah, I think they are. I don't think they're going to anyway. Listen, I understand Greg Olson spoiled a lot of people. He did. Before Greg Olson, when we were in the John Fox years, and Greg, you know this, they didn't throw the tight ends. They were blocking tight ends, and that's all they wanted. I believe we're back at that level. As much as people don't like it, and I understand that they don't get the stat numbers, and the fantasy options are bad, and people don't like that, but I think that's where we're at. As much as people don't like it.
I agree with you on that, Pickle. I think that's probably where we're at. But I think that Hunter Henry doesn't move the needle enough for me. Like the what is it? What do they say? The juice isn't worth the squeeze on that one.
When he came out in the draft, he came out in the same draft Christian McCaffrey was in, because at the time during that draft, I said I wanted a Derrick Henry. If I couldn't get him, I'd take that tight end. People said, well, wow, we got Greg Olson. I said, but Greg Olson ain't going to play forever. And Henry's block's good enough. He can play number 2 until Greg retires. But that was in my fantasy world. So,
well, I will say that the tight end room, like the tight end position, if you look at the most elite teams in the league, they either have an elite tight end or a solid tight end room. Every single team that wins the Super Bowl or that is a great team does. It's a very underrated position. It's a dump off. It's an emergency valve for a receiver, for a quarterback. And I mean, look at all the teams that have won Super Bowls in the last few years. Either have an elite tight end or a great tight end room, and we just don't have that right now. You know, I think that's a key part to being a championship team. To be honest with you, because they're such great players. It's such a great position.
I agree. Let me throw this out there, because I was going to bring this up on one of my shows here this week, actually. But because we're doing a little series. But anyway, do y'all think that, like, Tommy Tremble's entering his last year under contract, but Tommy's more of an H-back. They call him tight end, but he's more of an H-back guy than a pure tight end. So I think Dan put all his cards on Jatavian Sanders and developing into the tight end he wants. But I don't believe the coaches, but I don't believe Sanders is developing the way he should. I believe Mitch Evans has an opportunity to step into that role. He just has to step forward and do it. But it wouldn't shock me at all for them to draft a tight end next year if Sanders doesn't head in the right direction.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Again, I already sort of reiterated.
Right, we
this.
touched on it.
I think that the Panthers are happy with the room and they believe that they can still get the best out of these guys. The final one, how about old Jeremy Chin? Still available to come back. I mean, he's on the list. I just put who they put. He said the Panthers secondary looks to be one of the best in the NFC this season. The one hole is at secondary, though, and that's the safety room. Nick Scott signed back with Carolina on a 1-year deal, which means this could be Scott's final year. Carolina should look to reunite Jeremy Chin, who left Carolina in 2024 to sign with the Commanders and is now with the Raiders. The Panthers also drafted Zakee Wheatley in the NFL draft. But if Nick Scott is not back, Carolina needs an experienced safety who can see the field along the way. Dude, I would love if we brought Chin back as a linebacker. Forget safety. If he could play a linebacker, which is honestly probably where he should have been most of his career, just like we did with Thomas Davis, converted him from a safety into a linebacker, I think that would be awesome. But again, the wrench in that, though, is Ejiro Evero. Ejiro Evero didn't want to do that when Chin was here, so why would he want to do it now? I just think it would be cool.
Chin doesn't fit, to me, he doesn't fit as a full-time linebacker in the current system we use. Now, granted, I think if you well, I'll just say, if you put him in the Sean McDermott defense, he would fit. But then, of course, I read this week, and I heard it on the radio, on XM Radio, there's a lot of belief that if Washington doesn't have a good season this year, their head coach could be out. Now, he played real good for Dan Quinn, so there's in the future. But Jeremy Chin's still under contract with the Raiders, and this is his last year under contract. This entering this season because he only signed a 2-year deal with the Raiders, but he's still under contract with the Raiders. He's not a free agent. I guess they could trade for him, but I don't know that you would do that. I don't know that what would you would trade, but he is still currently with the Raiders.
Real quick to Tim Stellings in the chat. The more you comment, the more XP you get in the chat room. So it's like a video game. The more comments you leave, the more XP you get. So it's pretty cool. I like that YouTube.
Well, Jake, you number one, my man. You keep doing
yes,
it.
sir. Jake got 200.
And I'm number 2. We ruling this bitch.
Oh, shit.
I would love to have Chin back, to be honest with you. I loved him as a player. He's a player I would have bought the jersey for. I think
I liked him as a player.
Yeah, if I remember correctly.
He didn't fit Rivero. I think the only way we get him back is if we get rid of Rivero. But go ahead. I'll let you know. I'm sorry.
If I remember correctly, wasn't Jeremy Chin great at blitzing the quarterback? Like, wasn't that one of his big things? He was a great
under Matt Rule. Under Matt Rule,
it was damn near a strike safety.
Right,
They
under
would use
Matt
him to get aggressive and like get in the backfield.
Hold on, Pickle. We don't speak that name anymore, so we don't say that.
You ask, I say.
We don't speak that name. All right, Matt Fool. He's not. Yeah, but I remember Jerry Chin being great. I loved him as a player. Like I said, I would have bought his jersey. I would take a shot on Jeremy Chin to come back.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought he was a great guy.
I'm sorry, I didn't. If he was available, I would definitely take him back. If Evero wasn't, if we were in the right defense and we weren't in this,
that makes sense.
That's where now.
Yeah.
But I mean, I absolutely, and I wouldn't care to play him at linebacker or safety. Actually, I like him. I liked him under Dan Quinn. He played safety, and he played real good safety. But now Dan Quinn plays a different type of football. Dan actually plays his secondary closer to the way the Seahawks used their secondary last year. Because he played a lot in the box.
Boys, we have reached the final slide. That is it for this edition of the C3 Panthers podcast. We only have one more thing, left to do, and then we're going to get on up out of here. It's time for the longest running segment on the longest running podcast for the Carolina Panthers on the internet. It's time to tell someone to toughen up, get their act together. In the words of Steve Smith, it's time to ISO.
Ice up, son. Ice up.
All right, let's get to our ice ups. I'll ask Greg and Pickle first. Did you have anyone or anything you would like to ice up tonight before we get off of the C3 Panthers podcast?
Pickle, if you got one, you can go ahead. I got one, but you can go ahead if you want to.
Yeah, I got somebody. Brandon Scorby was denied.
Oh yeah,
yeah, because they didn't do the supplemental draft, and they haven't done a supplemental draft where somebody was actually drafted since 2019. They did one in 21, they did one in 23, but nobody was drafted, so the NFL basically quit doing them. So they tell him that they're not going to do one this year, and he can't enter it that way. But he didn't give anybody enough time to do the investigation to his history. Well, he got mad, so he's getting a lawyer. He's going to sue. And, dude, get over your damn self, Grow the fuck up.
Yeah.
I mean, really, seriously, grow the motherfucking up. You're a fucking crybaby. You broke the rules. Not one place, but two places. You knew when you were doing it, you were screwing up. You did it in Cincinnati. They knew you were screwing up. They knew you were making bets. They knew it all along, and they let you do it. So you go to Texas. That's why when you said you leaving, they said, "All right, have a nice life." And you went to Texas, and you got busted. So all of a sudden, I've got a problem. I'm going to I'm going to go get help, and all this other stuff. Guess what? As a parent, when my child messed up, he could say he's sorry, but he still had to do his punishment. When you go with a gun and bust into a gas station and rob the place, you can tell that cop 2 days later when you get caught, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have did it." You still have to go to jail.
Yeah.
When you smack the hell, if you smack the hell out of your girlfriend or your wife or something, guess what? You can tell her you're sorry, but you still have to take the punishment.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon Scorby, you ain't no damn different, Buttercup. You screwed up. What are you going to do, man? Literally, what are you going to do when you get on a field and somebody tackling you? You gonna sue them because they tackled you too hard? But the coach says you a second string or a third string quarterback. You gonna go sue the coach because you can't start? Fucking crybaby. That's what that is exactly why older folks like me are resenting the new generation. Exactly. They nothing but crybaby bitches. Go ahead.
So okay, go ahead, man.
First of all, I want to say it's been years since I made that ice up transition. I gotta work on making a new one for us, man, because I think it looks good, but
It holds up nice. It still works.
It does hold up nice. Yeah, it holds up good. It's been a while since I've seen it too. But okay, so I just bought a new house. Moved in about 2 weeks ago. I was living in a spot out in the sticks where I had an acre and I had no neighbors for a half a mile, and I could do whatever I wanted to do, and it was great, But it has its downside too. Now I'm in the suburbs and I'm living in kind of a cookie cutter neighborhood. I've got a great house. It's fantastic. It's way better than my last one. But I've got an HOA, and I've only been here 2 weeks, and I've already had to deal with my HOA like twice just living here in the last 2 weeks. So I would say to any HOA, ice up, because they are so strict about the dumbest stuff. I don't know what it is. I guess it's just part of living in the city. But I'm making a big transition right now, and to HOAs, ice up, because it's absolutely ridiculous the way they act about some things. So,
ice up. I am icing up former UFC fighter Dustin Poirier, who I mean, he was one of the best fighters in the UFC for a long time. And during Father's Day, he went to Hartsfield International Airport in Atlanta, tried to get on a plane, drunk as fuck. They wouldn't let him on. So then when the cops come, he's threatening to fight the cops. He's like, come on, man. He throws down his bag, throws down his jacket, puts his hands up like he's getting ready to fight. Bro, if he was not someone who was famous and in the UFC, he probably would have gotten tased and had the shit beat out of him. So it's like, dude, man, you're lucky that people knew who you are. And dude, even if you're a badass mixed martial arts fighter, you're not beating 3 cops who are looking to take you down and have tasers and guns. Like, dude, get some help. It seems to me like he has a little bit of a problem with alcohol. He definitely has a family. I hope he gets that on track. But to Dustin Poirier, you're making fighters look bad, bro. Ice up.
Ice
Sorry.
up.
Ice
Oh,
up. Yeah.
Well, now that you mentioned that reminds me of something, and this is kind of old, but I'm glad I get somewhere to say this at. Man, that Ronda Rousey Carano fight, like I was so hyped about this fight for so long, and the fight lasted like 16 seconds. I was so pissed. Like, I'm so glad I didn't pay to watch that.
Somebody I know paid a lot of money to watch a fight. Yeah. I really don't know what it was. It didn't last but a few seconds. Oh, they were pissed. Oh, they were hot. I just go back and laugh at them.
It lasted 17 seconds, and I don't know what I expected anything different, because every Ronda Rousey fight when she was in her prime was just taking bitches down, slapping them in an armbar, and then that's all she wrote. But the fights up until then were good, though.
Yeah, well, I love Carano and I love Rousey, so I was expecting a really good fight between the two. And then when I saw that, I was just like, oh man, like, come on, like, this is terrible. This is the way it goes sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
So.
That gives me a great idea. Brandon Scorby could try UFC for this year.
Maybe so.
I would enjoy that. I would enjoy seeing him get whipped.
I mean, there are former NFL players that are in the UFC making news for all the wrong reasons, but that's another pot. That's another pot. Listen, man, this has been another edition of the C3 Panthers Podcast. That's Panther Pickle. That's the Bat Daddy back on Tuesday. It was good having you again, bro. Tony Dunn, the
live
professor.
Thursday.
Yeah, y'all check out the Blue and Black Attack Podcast on YouTube. And Tony Dunn will be back next Tuesday. Thank you to Codizzle Allen for dropping in. Shout out CK. And that's it, man. Y'all have a wonderful evening. C3 Panthers Podcast. Keep pounding.
Keep pounding.